Coming up next on This Week in Google, it's me, Jason Howell, filling in for Leo Laporte one last time. I promise you he returns next week. We've got Jeff Jarvis, Stacey Higginbotham, Ant Pruitt, and a whole host of Google-related news at the top of the show anyways. We talk about Samsung possibly at least looking into the idea of bringing Bing Chat into its devices, and Google isn't very happy about it. A little panicked about it, actually. Also, the Pixel Fold coming to Google I/O. Almost certainly we're going to see the Pixel Fold at Google I/O along with a bunch of other hardware. We talk about that. The Substack CEO suffering from a little foot in mouth disease. That's coming up. And Drake and the Weeknd's smash hit was created with AI, and that's why you can't hear it anymore. All that and more coming up next on This Week in Google.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 712, recorded Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. P for Prevaricate. This episode of This Week in Google is brought to you by Cisco Meraki. With employees working in different locations, providing a unified work experience seems as easy as herding cats. How do you rein in so many moving parts? The Meraki Cloud Managed Network. Learn how your organization can make hybrid work work. Visit meraki.cisco.com/twit. And by ACI Learning. Our military uses some of the most advanced technology in the world, making veterans uniquely qualified for IT and cybersecurity positions. To learn more about ACI Learning's premium training across audit, IT, and cybersecurity readiness, visit go.acilearning.com/twit. It's time for This Week in Google. I'm Jason Howell, filling in just one more time for Leo Laporte, who is rounding out his vacation. He's at that point of the vacation where he's like looking at the calendar, like, oh, really? Do I have to? Do I have to stop having this kind of fun? Although I will say at the end of my vacation, all four of us in my family, we were like ready to return. So maybe he's at that point too. Who knows? You can ask him next week when he's back on This Week in Google. But it's great to be back, joined, as always, by the awesome crew of Twig, starting with you, Stacey Higginbotham. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Hello.
How was your birthday?
We're fun.
Yeah, exactly. I know. How was your birthday celebration?
Oh, it was delicious. There was so much food and cake.
Very nice.
Oh, I'll tell you about them. I got the Sonos speakers.
Okay.
Some fancy ones.
A little bit of a tease to the future. So you can stay tuned for that. Also joining us, Ant Pruitt, the second person wearing a beanie, it appears.
I'm just following her lead, man. Whatever Ms. Higginbotham says goes, right?
Yeah. Hey, you guys make it look good, and you're making me wish that I had brought mine to work today. It would be fitting because I've been cold all day, so I probably should have done that. Also joining us, but not wearing a beanie on his head, is Mr. Jeff.
Because I got hair.
Yeah, you've got some awesome hair, I do have to say.
It is.
Whenever I haven't done TV in a long time, but when I did TV, always the makeup people and hair people would say, "Oh, I love your hair."
We've got something to work with here.
Yeah. Waves.
Very nice to see you. See all three of you. And let's see here. Once again, last week was all about bringing democracy to the show and only using Jeff's links. This week I opened up the doc, and once again there was just this huge list of things. I added to it, so it's supplemented.
Yeah, you did. It is. And I just put stuff in for. I'm not saying we should talk about all of them by any means. Just choices.
But you put in some really great stuff. So we're going to be talking about it a lot this week. And then Leo will return next week, and it will no longer be a democracy.
All about it. And
Should we start talking about this whole Samsung Bing ChatGPT threat, which we talked a little bit about on All About Android last night? The story is that there was a report, Google got a hold of word that possibly Samsung was looking into the possibility, let's say, of replacing Google search on its Android phones with Bing. And, you can imagine probably a big reason for that is because Bing now has that the chatbot functionality with it. But we started talking about this on the show last night and then immediately kind of got pointed to another article from the chat room. This article is from Android Authority that basically says like Samsung couldn't do that, which is a really good point because if you are, at least here in the US, Google makes you sign, if you want to have Google's suite of apps on your Android phone, and that includes Google Search, you have to sign the mobile application distribution agreement, which basically says it's all or nothing, essentially. If you want the Google Play Store, you also have to have Google Search. So it's kind of hard to believe that Samsung would sacrifice that in order to do Microsoft Bing search on the device, but it's not entirely impossible.
Why would it be hard, Mr. Howell? Because isn't Samsung the same folks that decided, you know what, we want to de-Google our phones about 8-9 years ago and go with, was it Tizen and some other
but they weren't really de-Google.
They haven't done it. I mean, their phones aren't running. They're still running Android.
Yeah, that's true.
It's Android, but that's not Google, right? Android is not necessarily Google.
That is true.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about straight up like open source Android,
right,
you can run open source Android on your device and not be required to make that
Similar
agreement.
To what Amazon did with the Fire phone, because their phone and stuff was not necessarily a Google-y phone. It was just open source code.
Wait a minute. Here is me dramatizing, unboxing a Samsung phone. Big. But I can't imagine the customers are going to be happy with it.
Bing with a chatbot. That's magical.
No.
I feel like Samsung doesn't use like true open source Android, don't they?
No.
Android from Google?
They use Android from Google. That's kind of my point.
Okay.
And the point of the Android Authority article is that Samsung, of all companies, has totally agreed to the MADA, the Mobile Application Distribution Agreement, which basically says, if you get a Samsung, you expect the Play Store to be on that device, or at least we do here in the US. And I mean, that's just the way it's always been with Samsung. And with most Android phones, most people buying Android phones do have that expectation here in the US, especially that there's going to be the Play Store, there's going to be Google Search, there's going to be Google Maps, there's going to be whatever, insert your, any number of Google apps that are installed on almost every Android device in the US here. And if they decided to go with a different search, they're breaking that agreement. They can't have the full suite of apps. They're no longer allowed to have Google Play Store on there. They're no longer allowed to have Google Maps or any of them, basically. It's like all or nothing. So that's the difference.
Yeah, I get that. But I swear I thought they at least toyed with the idea of doing just that several years ago, because of you could sideload stuff pretty easily in the Android ecosystem, and not necessarily have to go through the Play Store. If you want to do your own Samsung store or what have you, developers could still have their apps published there as well. And I'm sure they wouldn't mind having their apps published on Samsung devices because, they're like the number one manufacturer of phones in the planet, right? It's not the iPhone. The Samsung's the number one, right?
Yeah, I mean, but that would be a huge blow because when I think of Samsung, you're right, the numbers are huge as far as user base worldwide. Samsung is, I believe Samsung's on top, but I'd say the majority of those users are not users that we would consider power users.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Sideloading, no matter how easy it is an extra step. And it's actually kind of not super easy to understand when it's your first time sideloading an app. It makes sense to us. Yeah. But I think to the average person, like when I think of my mom having, I mean, she has an iPhone, but if she was on Android, she'd probably have a Samsung phone. And if I think of her, based on what you're saying, like, oh, but side loading is pretty easy if you want to Google Maps. Like, I could never imagine in a million years my mom actually deciding, like, I'm going to side load Google Maps onto it. I just couldn't. She'd be calling me to do that, and that's a step too far, I think.
Yeah,
that's my point.
Okay, so here's some history if y'all want it.
Yes,
apparently,
love history.
All the way back in 2010, Samsung tried to replace Android by launching its own mobile OS called Bada.
Bada, that's right.
Bada Bing.
All right. Okay. I said about
2012, it tried again with Tizen. So there's Tizen.
Okay.
And then in response, Google bought Motorola.
Yeah.
They were like,
I remember that.
Yeah, we're going to make our phones. We'll protect it. Yeah. And then in 2014, they sold Motorola because they apparently felt like they didn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Apparently in 2017, the launch of Bixby, which is Bixby even still on the phones? It's on my phone. Okay.
Yeah. Bixby's still around, still kicking.
So that was kind of threatening, but they also have partnerships, not just on the mobile phone. The Tensor chipset in the Google Pixel phones is made by Samsung's foundry operations. They also they have a pretty tight partnership with SmartThings and Google Home. And so, yeah, that's the history there, if that helps.
It did.
Internet.
It did help.
It certainly shows that I think along the way, Samsung would love, many, many times would love to have autonomy and kind of control the entire thing, which makes sense about Samsung. They're very much, all about their ecosystem. So even within the world of Android, they still have their devices playing nicer with their other devices than they do with any devices.
As big as they are, it makes sense for them to consider, why not just do our own thing? Because it's not just mobile phones with them. It's the televisions. It's the daggone refrigerators that I refuse to buy.
Yeah, but they've never done a good job with that stuff, right? People complain about what Samsung adds to the phone. I mean, it's like GM getting rid of the two major operating systems on their car. I'm not buying a GM car without being able to use Android or Apple.
Yeah,
they're bad at it.
To Samsung's credit, because I was one of those people for many years that said, you know what? This is the reason I don't have a Samsung phone, because there's too much crapware on top of the Android. And I just want to get to the Android. I was one of those folks. But to their credit, this last several iterations here of I guess you can go all the way back to maybe the S20 or the model right before that, the OS got a lot cleaner.
That actually was. So the article I'm referencing is from Make Use Of. They actually talk about the reason that happened is because Google was pushing so hard on Samsung to stop doing it. So that was part of their frustrations with each other, and why Samsung was like, no, I'll build my own. Darn it.
Yeah. Because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, which is so anti-consumer. Bleh.
Queen Pruitt, she started out as a Samsung user a gazillion years ago. And then when the Pixel line started coming out, she got into the Pixel world and just like me, just likes clean Android. And I don't remember which Samsung model came out that she wanted to try. It was a Note line. So it's somewhere, one of the last time there was a Note. She tried the Note and it drove her nuts because the OS was just so cluttered with stuff. And she's like, I used to love the stylus and love navigating through, but this is just it's too busy. I believe that's the word she said. It's just too busy. She was used to the vanilla Android, and now fast forward to I guess 2021, she got a whatever it is, this latest Samsung, and she's back on Samsung now. She doesn't have a Pixel, and she's totally fine. You don't hear her fussing about it's being too busy or just too much stuff going on. She's back in that ecosystem that she used to love, and it's cleaner now. So, I mean, I got to give them credit for that. I still don't want them, but
they've definitely improved that. In my opinion, in my experience, they've definitely improved that in the last handful of years. Because I was fully forever on board with this idea that Samsung, they clutter their devices with too many features. They go out of their way to make sure you know about every single little feature, and it gets really annoying, at least in the beginning of setting up a phone. Lots of clutter.
Remember all of the bubbly sounds and the little clicks? Everything get tapped on. It sounded like bubbles bursting. And
right.
And it's like, gosh, just stop all this cute stuff. It's a phone.
I'm not a 13-year-old girl.
Somebody likes it, but it isn't me. They have improved a lot of that stuff, and I give Samsung full credit. I just have a really hard time, I have a hard time seeing Samsung turn away from what is arguably the backbone of its success, in my opinion. I mean, Samsung does a lot of things right on their own, but at the core of it is Android and is the Google experience of Android. If Samsung, required you to install apps that run on every Android platform, but you've got to get them over here now instead of over here, I just don't think it would be as successful as it is right now. But maybe I'm wrong.
Just be negotiation. It may just be negotiation.
Yeah.
Just be saying we could go to Bing.
Yes, right.
But I also think this prediction will come back to haunt me. But I think that there's going to be a huge, not buyer's remorse, but installer's remorse on ChatGPT and search. I think it's going to be, the media is going to be so on top of every single thing it does wrong, libeling people and making mistakes. It's not going to deliver a good experience. It's going to be wrong because it's not meant to do this at all. And Google, I think the mistake Google is making is not saying we're the cautious ones. We're going to do it right. Oh, Microsoft's rushing in because they're so desperate. And I'm kind of surprised that Google isn't doing that. And they're saying, okay, we'll rush.
Yeah, they're kind of doing the opposite of that.
Yeah, they are. And
they're like, we don't want to be left behind. This is the first real major threat that we've faced, in decades.
It's not, I don't think. I don't think it is. Everybody's screaming. I just saw a piece of the Washington Post just now. ChatGPT will mean the languages will disappear. No, it could actually mean the opposite. Everybody's trying to find their profound experience. Elon Musk, it'll destroy humanity, down to it'll destroy Google's business. I think it's cool to start off with, but I don't think it's going to be a game changer for these companies for quite a while. Am I crazy?
I saw an article yesterday, maybe in Nature, and it was AI search engines are exploding in number. Are they any good? And I thought it was going to be an academic study. I was kind of impressed that they pulled it out so quickly, but it's not. It's an article. It was clicky. It was not that kind. That was not that part of Nature. But it is a researcher who's evaluating large language models. It's someone from Hugging Face, which is Margaret.
Mm-hmm. Stable Diffusion.
Mm-hmm.
Stable Diffusion. So the gist of it was like, they're not there yet. And they're also, when they're wrong, they're wrong in ways that it's hard for people to understand or recognize. So they're really a problem. So that was kind of the gist of this article. But I was very disappointed that it wasn't more sciencey. So I couldn't say 30% of them have room for improvement.
I mean, we're at the beginning of this, at least this modern infusion or attempt to infuse what we think of as search and have reinforced for decades with this kind of more conversational, kind of do everything view that we apparently have about chatbots. Just yesterday, for All About Android, there were a couple of new phones released, a Xiaomi phone and a Asus phone and everything. And so I was kind of prepping it for the doc and getting it ready to put in the show. And it came down to the part where when I'm like creating my notes and everything for the show, I had to like start pulling specs and stuff. And in that moment, I was just like, shoot me. Like the last thing I want to do is like, transcribe specs for yet another phone. I've done it so many times. And then I thought, wait a minute.
AI.
I could open up Bing chatbot and see what it does as far as transcribing the specs, because I don't want to do it. And I did it and it did it great. I checked the data. The data was accurate. And I was like, God, I kind of feel dirty for having done that. But I mean, it did the same thing I was going to do. I still bring my own context to the show. So it's not like I'm just reading a robot. But But yeah, so
I think
that was just a really interesting experience to me. It's like I am using search in that capacity to do something useful in a way that I haven't before. And if that's the direction that search is headed, like I'm interested in that. That's compelling to me.
I think we're going to have better programs for our interns, because a lot of things like you would have an intern do.
Yes.
That's not a bad thing. I'm just like, oh, yeah. Because like I was talking to my child who has a job dealing with data and doing things like thank you notes and like just real scut work for like a psychotherapy practice. And like they're automating the heck out of what their job is now. And it's great. So I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's fine. But I agree with you. We will have to find some more scut work for.
So I put in a story on
higher level scut work.
Because you got to have scut work to progress, in my opinion. You got to do something.
Yeah, you can't start like true. You can't give like a 18-year-old or a 22-year-old out of college something that's requires 20 years of experience. But
right.
What does that look like?
So I put in a story at line 35, which is related to this, but since it's democracy, I'll bring it up now.
Yeah, do.
Where people are using ChatGPT to get multiple full-time jobs.
Yes. The overemployed.
Yeah, which is fascinating. And I bet it's probably overdone as a story and they turned it into a trend that's not really a trend. But it's interesting. You can see how the efficiencies for this kind of crap work are tremendous.
Well, yes. And so I read through that article, and I think what really struck me about that is that these overemployed, so these are people who have realized, hey, I can instead of having one job, I can have 2, 3, 4 jobs. Because
one guy said
AI
5 is going too far.
Yeah, 5. I don't think I could pull off 5, but I could do 4. And I mean, they're making upwards of like $500,000 a year because they're working these multiple jobs, because AI does like 75% of the normal kind of busy work that they would do. And I guess my mind just kind of went to, okay, yeah, now, because we're at the beginning of all of this, but that's got to change. Like, I can't imagine that's the new norm, is everybody can work 4 jobs and get paid, $500,000 a year because AI bots are going to help them work more efficiently. Like, everything's going to adjust towards that at some point. So enjoy it while you can, I guess.
And that's the way we are. I mean, that's what we're accelerating this role of like just hyper capitalism, hyper productivity, hyper something, where this will be good for like, a year or 2. But if you can make $500K, $1 million during that year or 2, and then if you're already doing this, you're probably going to spot the next thing. Then you just hop up. You just can't
That's a really good
replace
point.
it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'm just jealous. Yeah.
I mean, I love being complacent. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, God, really?
We've gotten to that point. Let's just chill.
I'm 45. I deserve to be chill.
Yes.
I just used my experience.
I deserve to be frozen.
Well,
be frozen. We talked on Sunday because I had the honor and pleasure of being on the big chair, the big show.
The big show. Yes,
Sunday.
Indeed. Thank you, by the way.
It was a lot of fun. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
And I asked the same question to Dan Patterson and Jason Heiner about, how good is this going to be for companies, in particular like enterprise. And we discussed that a lot of automation could go into place once the AI is trained up, and it's going to help things like terminating someone. Someone decides they want to leave the company because they got another job, so we need to terminate them in the system. Because what happens, and there was some reported stories that people that get terminated, but a couple of things would still have access for them after they're terminated, and it should have been in a checklist. Someone could still log into the CRM, if you will, or something like that. And if you can log into the CRM, you probably can log into some other server on the network that you shouldn't be able to log into outside of the company. And AI could go in and take those different scripts that could be run across multiple systems and maybe create one super script, if you will.
A termination script, if you will.
Right. At the previous company I worked at, we had a script for terms. That's what we called it, terms. And it was pretty methodical. And after you do 3 or 4 of them in a row, yeah, you can see why someone would rather have that process automated. But we couldn't automate it because if you're using Active Directory, Microsoft's Active Directory, it could handle a lot of things, but it couldn't necessarily handle the things on, say, a Red Hat Linux box that needed to go through and have things checked off from permissions and killing accounts and stuff like that. So if we could get scripts to do all of that in one, that would be great.
We'll get AI to do the rundown.
Heck,
Honestly,
we'll get AI to be us. We could have. No. I volunteer as tribute.
I mean, honestly, an AI to construct the rundown, that's fully believable. Like when I think about my tasks on creating a rundown and everything, it's pulling, what are the news items that are getting kind of the most attention, or the news items that I just find personally fascinating.
Right.
So there is a little bit of that, but pretty easy for an AI system to understand what news stories are the big ones, or the controversial ones, or the funniest ones, depending on how people online are reacting to them. Compile a list of those, go through each article and pull out the most important notes from each article. Like, I could totally see an AI system. Maybe I'm building one right now, an AI system for podcasters and notes in a doc. I mean, that seems incredibly doable.
By the time we're off, you'll see a link in the chat.
True.
Never know. So may have just given someone a really great idea. But so then getting back to this idea of AI infused in search, we know that Google, of course, has its Bard. Beyond that, Google saw this thing, this potential scenario with Samsung going in a different direction. And apparently, at least according to I think it was the New York Times, that was like, an indicator for Google to really jump on, okay, yet another reason why we really need to step up our efforts for integrating AI into search. When I think of AI on mobile and what we've interacted with over the past 5-7 years of what has been our current model of AI, it's been pretty useful at times. Sometimes it's been kind of like, really, I expected better of you. But sometimes, AI on the mobile device has been pretty magical. What do we think about like the next 5 years? The next 5 years, based on what we're seeing right now with AI, and going forward, if Google is like full court press to bring these features into search, that means it's also bringing it into mobile. And what does that mean for our day-to-day as far as that's concerned?
Well, hold on. I mean, there's been AI on our mobile devices forever. I mean, look at portrait mode. That is algorithms designed to isolate people. I mean, so I want us to be a little bit more specific there, just because, I mean.
Right. No, that's a good point. And I did intend for that. We have had AI on our phones, and Google has made a really big deal about that for the past however many years. But I feel like where we're at right now is people are dazzled by what AI can do now that it couldn't do before. And it seems like a shift. So what does that mean going forward?
We're dazzled by it because it's something that we think of as being unique to ourselves and human, which is facility with language and summaries, right? So and it's so visible and it's so neat. We're like, oh, the computer looks like us now. Whereas the computer isolating pixels for portraiture or suggesting tone, you're like, what is that?
Or Stacey, right? The computer looks like us, right? It's both reactions at once, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's true. So, and I don't know about search on my phone. Like, okay, search is awesome because search is is it still 60 billion? It's a multi-billion, like it is the revenue it is the money that underlies all this innovation for Google in particular. Microsoft has other better sources of revenue as well, right? So when we break this question down, I'm like, search is so important to Google because it's their cash cow. Mm-hmm. will it change the way we do things on our phone? Yes. Will it change things in a way that is more astronomical than what we've already seen? I'm a little doubtful. But it's a huge threat to Google from that perspective. So, I mean,
but Stacey,
yeah,
is it? I think that's what the presumption is, and everybody was saying, "Oh my God, Microsoft's ahead of Google. Google's a problem." What's the value we get from? And Leo loves his search engine that I keep on forgetting the name of. That he
Neva.
What
Is it Neva? Neva?
Yeah, Neva. But the value we get from search is not conversation, right? It's answers to questions,
Right?
And we try, everybody tried to use the voice devices, and we talked about this last week, where the voice devices are going away because we really don't get information that way. It's not very convenient. Maybe that's partly voice, but it's partly also conversation. I don't know, Stacey. I had the same kind of reaction you did at first, but I'm starting to doubt myself there whether. If Bing keeps on giving back wordy, wrong answers, is Google better off saying, "But we're Google"?
Well,
what do you think?
I mean, I don't think it'll give wordy, bad answers forever.
Yeah,
I think we recognize that that's a problem. I think this initial it's glitchy. It's the same sort of, you remember when we had mobile phones in the very beginning and calls were dropped and people were appalled and people made fun of it? It was an active punchline way early on in the mobile phone era, right?
Yeah.
And now best effort voice, yeah, we all just accept it, right? That's just a part of life. It's whatever. So a best effort search that is impressive and offers other features like, bigger answers, maybe more convenience because you have to do less, might actually be the same sort of thing as best effort voice. At one time, unthinkable. And now we're like, yeah, all right, you know what you're getting, right? So I just don't know.
Yeah.
The other question is, for something like if Samsung, Google pays Apple and Samsung to put search on their phones, right? And those are big deals. And those are big deals because Google needs everybody to be funneling search through Google, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's, again, their cash cow. So what is the impact if Apple's like, Google, everybody wants Bing. You're just not the hotness anymore. I'm going over to Microsoft. That's going to suck for Google because that is, I don't know how many web searches away from them. And that means those people don't see their ads. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's just a quality on the search or if it's a fundamental business issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think you're right. We don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think Google could. This is we talked about before, and it's in the rundown today too. I think Google could make a big mistake following Microsoft here, and they could differentiate themselves by saying, "We're not going to do it until we get the right answers. We're not going to do it. This is what we depend upon." I don't know.
I think it would be a mistake to say we're not going to do it until we get the right answers. What is
that point?
Yeah. What is that point? So I'm where do we draw is it 3 9s? Is it
right?
1 9 and a bunch of 8s? I don't know. So I don't know.
But the alternative
I'm a terrible pundit.
But the opposite side of that coin is, where do you draw the line to wait long enough for it to be quote unquote safe, or what Google apparently is doing according to this article that you put in here from Bloomberg about just launching Bard ethics, AI ethics be damned. Google was very focused and attentive when it needed to be, when it was feet were held to the fire, when they let go of Timnit Gebru. And suddenly this AI ethics thing was called into question, and Google, okay, we're really focused on this until there was competition. And then all that went out the window, according to this article. A lot of people, from the inside saying, Google was very quick to kind of turn on its heels and just say, this is now priority number 1. Put that on the back burner. We got to launch no matter what, and we got to get this stuff into all of our products.
But launch
isn't
what?
Google looking at this as a potential revenue stream for profit, right? Yeah,
I don't know how.
I mean, by way of search and ads, the way that they are already.
Right.
If I'm kind of following, where you were coming from, Stacey.
I saw that story and I thought, well, Google jumped on it because Microsoft jumped on it, and Google said, you know what? If Microsoft's jumping on it, there's got to be something there. We already do search pretty dadgum good, and we can up the ante, if you will, and make it even better, and just keep getting more and more revenue coming in towards our product. That's just how I saw it. And I know that these staff could, or would be upset about it, but at the same time, Google is still a dadgum business, and they don't care about people.
I hope there's a transcript somewhere of Sundar Pichai saying, we're pretty dadgum good. We're a dadgum business. I really hope for that. I want that.
We're a business. We're for profit. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. All of these companies that we enjoy to speaking about each week, they're companies, they're businesses first. And, we like to hope that they're doing the right thing and being nice to the staff and employees or what have you. But bottom line is profit at the end of the day.
Did anyone watch the 60 Minutes thing on AI? I did not see that this Sunday.
But I couldn't bear it.
Margaret Mitchell, it was hard. It was hard. I couldn't make it through it.
Margaret Mitchell said she couldn't bear to, or Timothy Gabriel, one of the authors of the Stochastic Parents, said, I can't bear to watch it. I'll read the transcript. I put something at the last minute there. They were really wrong about something. Where there was this moment, I did see this clip where Sundar says there are these unexpected behaviors, and the unexpected behavior was supposedly it taught itself an entire language without being taught the language. And that's just plain wrong, completely wrong. It was trained on the language. Google talked about how it was trained on the language. It's Palm. And they let it out there like this mysterious machine, grabbed a whole bunch of knowledge and we don't even know how it did it. Not the case. Get ready, Ant. Get ready. It was an example of
push the button. Moral panic.
Stacey missed the moral panic.
No, I was here for it.
Okay.
I was here for the moral panic. I saw the button. I was like, is that the same fire that Elmo's in front of in the meme?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. Good eye.
Elmo's fire.
Awesome.
What was the movie? What was that movie? Not Elmo's Fire.
I don't know.
There was St. Elmo's Fire. But
St. Elmo's Fire. It was St. Elmo's Fire. Right. Okay. That's right.
Okay. But is
that the basis of Elmo in front of the fire?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea.
For good.
Let's ask ChatGPT and it'll make something.
You know what? I asked Bard how would ChatGPT change search? And I also asked it, is ChatGPT a threat to search? But it got through. And Bard doesn't think too highly of it, surprisingly. But it does say ChatGPT could change search in a number of ways. For example, it could be used to provide more comprehensive and informative answers to questions. This is and I'll just answer your question then, Jason, on your mobile phone. Personalized search results better to match the user's interests on your mobile phone. Make it easier to find information on complex or controversial topics. Help users understand the context of information. And make it easier to find information in different languages. However, it is important to note that ChatGPT is still under development and is not clear yet how it will be used in the future. So there's how it could change search.
It's a prevarication machine.
I don't think it's a prevarication machine. That is a really dicey, or that's a scandalous kind of comment there.
What $20 word was that you just
for what fancy way of saying lying.
No, not lying, skirting. Media train.
As a journalist, I'm like, it's lying. I was just gonna, I don't think I talked about this, but I went to a presentation. Actually, it was about TinyML in factory automation. So I was surprised when ChatGPT came up. But this company was talking about how in a factory, to control your equipment, you have something called a programmable logic controller, which is a dedicated computer that only manages information and data and control of that one piece of equipment. And it's not connected to the internet usually. But these PLCs are like highly custom, very fancy, and they all have their own unique programming languages. It's a total bear to deal with them. But this company they wanted to apply a tiny machine learning model and tie it to software that was going to run from the internet, basically, to normal people software, not PLC software. So to write that code that would combine these things, they used ChatGPT, and they told it what they were trying to do, and the maker of the PLC, and it wrote code for them. And they actually ended up using about 40% of the code, which saved them like 4 hours worth of work, which I think is the right way to look at this now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And people who don't know how to code can now tell the machine what they want to do. I think that's huge power.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that yet, because like, I don't know how to code for a PLC. You still had to have that knowledge. Well, no, but I think like as someone who doesn't know how to code, what I would end up doing is say, hey, ChatGPT, I want to do this, this, and this. And it would do it. But if it didn't work, I don't have any tools to fix it.
No way for you to know.
Last week, there was a story we didn't get to about everybody, all God's children have their generative AIs now. There's one that debugs the programming as it writes it.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, that is fancy.
Mm-hmm.
That could get my little like ADHD
That's
brain into
fancy
programming
pants.
right there. Like, I already did this. I'm not looking at it again.
There'll be a new career direction, is someone who's not actually a coder, but who's good at understanding how to get AI systems
Breaking
like
parts.
ChatGPT to code things.
Yeah.
Organized enough to know the
Systems
right
into parts.
questions. Yeah, interesting stuff. Cool. Well, let's take a quick break, and then we got a whole lot more to talk about this week. You had to know AI was going to come up in this show. I feel like every show across the network these days has some sort of AI angle to it, because it's just how can it not?
At least our AI discussions are worth listening to, unlike the mass media. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
jaded still.
You're right, sir.
There you go. And that's why you love Twit. But let's take a break and thank the sponsor of this episode of This Week in Google. Is brought to you by Cisco Meraki, the experts in cloud-based networking for hybrid work. You could have employees working from home. They could be working, in a cabin in the mountains somewhere, as long as it has good Wi-Fi, I'm imagining, or a lounge chair on the beach. Again, good coverage is kind of required in that situation, but a cloud-managed network provides the same exceptional work experience no matter where they are. It's very liberating. You may as well welcome hybrid work, because it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. Hybrid work works best in the cloud. It has its perks for both employees and leaders. Workers can move faster. They can deliver better results with a cloud-managed network. And then, the benefit to leaders is automating distributed operations, building more sustainable workspaces, and proactively protecting the network. An IDG Market Pulse research report conducted for Meraki actually highlights top-tier opportunities in supporting hybrid work. Hybrid work is a priority for 78% of C-suite executives, 78%. Leaders want to drive collaboration forward. They also want to stay on top of, or in fact, boost productivity and security. Hybrid work, as we very well know, has a number of challenges as well. The IDG report raises the red flag about security. It notes that 48% of leaders report cybersecurity threats as a primary obstacle to improving workforce experiences. Always-on security monitoring is part of what makes the cloud-managed network so awesome. IT can use apps from Meraki's vast ecosystem of partners. These are turnkey solutions built to work seamlessly with the Meraki cloud platform for things like asset tracking, location analytics, and more. And you can gather insights on how people use their workspaces. As one example, in a smart space, environmental sensors can actually track activity and occupancy levels to stay on top of cleanliness. You can reserve workspaces. That's based on vacancy and employee profiles to allow employees to scout out a spot in a snap. Those locations in restricted environments can actually be booked in advance and include time-based door access. And then finally, mobile device management. That's integrating devices and systems to allow IT to manage, update, and troubleshoot company-owned devices even when the device and employee are in that remote location somewhere. So you can turn any space into a place of productivity and empower your organization with the same exceptional experience, no matter where they work, with Meraki and the Cisco suite of technology. Learn how your organization can make hybrid work work. All you got to do is visit meraki.cisco.com/twit and check it out for yourself. And we thank Cisco Meraki for their support of This Week in Google. Blah, blah, blah. Do we want to step off the AI gas pedal for a moment and talk a little bit about I/O, because we've got some interesting.
You're the boss. You're the boss.
No, keep going.
On
People
the
love our AI discussions. Apparently.
No, I vote for IO. Don't people hate our AI discussions?
I don't know. I'm not saying we won't go venture back into the AI waters, but at some point.
Yeah,
but
Ant was wearing his ironic hat, Stacey.
That's
You see, so
it was. Yeah. I always give out sarcasm throughout to my family here, and no one ever gets it. They always think I'm serious, so I shouldn't be surprised.
I would take you seriously too, Ant.
Yeah.
Because
True.
Because it's the smart thing to do. You're a serious guy.
Well, let's talk
I/O.
Let's talk a little bit about I/O, which, I mean, honestly, let's be real. We're probably going to hear a heck of a lot about AI in a number of different ways at I/O.
The question is, will they screw it up again?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the any stage demos, how are those going to go?
Ooh.
I mean, could get really
remember to bring the phone and leave it there.
But we've been hearing, we're kind of getting a good indication or a good view into the hardware aspect of I/O, which for any developer is probably the lesser exciting aspect of Google I/O, as it's a developer conference after all. But we've all been to I/O, I think. I think all of us have been to I/O one time or another. And when we're at I/O and, they're unloading information about their new devices or anything like that, definitely gets attention.
Home. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of attention. And I think what's interesting about this Google I/O is that there are the devices that we know of, and then there's the device that we've only heard about but hasn't really been officially announced, which is the Pixel Fold. And it actually looks like this is almost certain to happen. CNBC has its own sources. There have been other leaks leading up to now, but CNBC is, basically saying like it's on. The Pixel Fold, that's Google's first foldable device, is going to be launched at Google I/O. And I mean, it's going to be announced May 10th, pre-order same day, available from my understanding June 27th. So a month and a half later, probably somewhere between $1,700 and $1,800. So a pricey device.
I know Ant will be buying that tomorrow.
Yeah. Man,
Stacey,
it's okay.
Somebody give Stacey some oxygen.
Calm down. It's okay. It's okay. Were you getting your hopes up or something?
Well, I haven't even spent that much money on shoes, and I know I spend an inordinate amount of money on shoes, and that is a lot.
It's a lot of dough.
What shoes are you wearing now, Stacey?
Well, right now I'm wearing my LL Bean slippers.
Oh, okay.
But I do have
that's all
some,
we're worth is LL Bean slippers. Thank you very much. Don't dress up for us.
I have some fancy, I have some Prada loafers that were very expensive.
But not Pixel Fold expensive.
But not Pixel Fold expensive.
$1,700. Good grief, man. That's a lot of cash.
It is. Does it make it any better to say that that's about the same price as Samsung's Z Fold?
No.
They're like same-ish area.
What? No, that's not true. Is that how much the phone that Leo gave me was?
No, did he give you the Z Flip or the Z Fold?
No.
The Flip.
He gave me the
Flip, the smaller one.
Oh.
How much does the Flip cost?
I think that's more like $999. That's like a
I think so.
device. Yeah.
Which I also think is a better size and better.
That's still more than my shoes.
Yeah, it's still daggum expensive. Phones should not be $1,000.
I mean, phones are expensive. Yeah. But I mean,
not be $1,000. 700 tops, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Paying the Samsung tax, maybe. I don't know.
It's just
$9.99. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get yourself a daggum MacBook Pro for like $1,500 and you can make calls over VoIP on that thing.
But you're not going to put that in your pocket and go on a vacation carrying that around. Like, that's different things.
Okay, MacBook Air.
I was like, you've got the biceps to carry a Pro around, but the rest of us, no way.
Yeah, this is Ant on his phone. He's like, oh, hello.
Do it. It's just crazy. These devices cost this much, and I've ranted about this before. I don't know if I've ranted about it on here, but just a $1,700 phone is the opening list price, and 3 months later, it's going to be $900. I guarantee it. And then another 3 months from that, it's going to be roughly $500. Why not just come out the gate with it under $1,000 and stop overcharging us for these devices on launch day? It's ridiculous.
Because people will pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to stop paying for it and send.
Well, at some point, some people will. I mean, there are people who buy gold phones, gold-plated phones.
Hey, you person, stop being excited about that phone. Stop finding value in that price. Like, some people just will.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy the Pixel 6 Pro, but this joint is not $1,000 piece of equipment. It's not. It does well and did what it needed to do. It had its little issues that had to have some software updates to fix it. Still not $1,000 phone in my eyes.
What I don't understand is the utility, unless you're a game player, I guess, of the vertical fold. Stacy's horizontal fold, I get it, makes it smaller, right? It's really hand sized, but the horizontal, I mean the vertical. I'm getting confused. I'm not going to.
The book
landscape and portrait.
There you go.
All right, versus tablet fold.
Stacey, if Leo offered you a vertical fold, would you have said yes, or would you have said? I
mean, I would have tried it.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't carry it around necessarily. I mean, yeah, it was a great phone.
I like the idea of the vertical fold, if you will. Is that what you call it, Mr.
Just photos? Yeah.
I like the idea of one that folds like a book that way.
Why?
But I thought clamshell was the other way.
The
clamshell's this way.
Clamshell is like the flip, right?
Yes. Clamshell's the flip.
Book fold is the fold. Clamshell is the flip. That's what we're going to call it. That makes the most sense.
We're going to do the whole show just with hand signals now.
But no, I like this layout for
he likes the book layout.
Reason because I like dual monitors here at my desk for multitasking. I totally would be down for that. I just don't want to be down for that for over $1,000 because the screen is only going to be this big, 6.2 inches or something like that. It's not worth it.
So Dr.
I like it
Android?
for multitasking.
Yeah, multitasking is why
I'm not Dr. Android. Sorry about that.
Right. No, it's okay.
I mean, it's the fold is really just meant to be, it's a phone most of the time, but it's a tablet when you want it. And that's the benefit, I suppose.
Would you want it?
I'm kind of same as Stacey. I really want to use it. I want to try it. I've used the Z Fold, a few different iterations of the Z Fold because Leo has, bought them a couple of times and I've gotten them for review and everything. And I've just always found them very bulky. Like, yes, they fold down to a phone size, sorta, but definitely not thickness. It's probably like twice as thick, if not a little bit thicker. And so it really ends up being, because I carry my phone in my pocket, it ends up feeling like a huge brick that I'm hauling around with me all the time. And then it's like, do I actually unfold it and use it in that way enough to justify the cost?
Plus,
Probably
it's not a one hand, or it's not an easy.
It's not a one hand device. No, I mean it is when it's folded, but. Don't drop it. If you got it open, it's really hard to hold on to with one hand,
Can you do one app on one side and another app on the other side? And
Yeah, you can with the Z Fold.
okay.
I'm pretty certain they're going to allow you to do that with the Pixel Fold. Android's been getting a lot of updates the last couple of versions in order to really solidify compatibility for these larger size foldable devices. And that's kind of part of it, is the multitasking aspect has been, a part of that. Also having like a little launch bar, like a task bar, like you're used to seeing on a laptop, that sort of stuff.
It's a computer because we're doing more computer tasks. I mean, the only time I want multitasking on my phone is when I'm doing something like I'm trying to manage my email and I'm pulling in data from something else and trying to, and then I'm like, why the heck am I trying to do this on my phone? And I'm like, it's because my computer's so bulky and I don't want to get it out, or I don't want to go to my desk. But
my pick of the week would be ideal for a fold, because of being able to look at different menus on one screen and having another viewer on the other screen where you can sort of see how this menu affects the image or the output or program output or what have you. And just like I would sitting at a desk with multiple monitors, it just makes sense to me, creative wise.
For gaming, wouldn't you turn, now to really confuse things, wouldn't you turn it this way?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so the controls are on the bottom screen and the actions on the top screen, right?
Right. Yeah, that would be cool too.
Yeah, and some, like, at least as with the Samsung example, there are certain apps and games that make use of the fact that, like, on the inside, you've got a seamless display, but it has a little bit of a crease that allows you to delineate that this screen is dedicated to this, UI element or whatever, and this screen is dedicated to something else. Like the camera app, the stock Samsung camera app. If you got the Fold and you unfold it halfway or whatever, it's going to give you kind of like your preview of what the camera shows on one screen, and on the other half of the screen, it's going to give you all of your controls. And so certain things like that are definitely.
And so you
possible.
hold up a thing this big to take a picture?
People do that now.
I was about to say that is a thing people do now, but yeah.
That's not unusual.
Hey, anyone remember? I'm just going to take us to like a little jaunt down memory lane.
It's memory lane day for you.
I know. I'm just like the historian. So was it 2005, maybe 2004? The Intel ad campaigns about your unwired life. And they were all about it was when they were adding Wi-Fi to their laptops, and really just laptops in general.
Unwired
and suddenly,
moments.
It was something like that. It was like unwire your life or something like that. And we were all like, and the best they could do was show people with their laptop like outside. Working. So I feel like we're in another one of those moments where we're just like, we don't realize it, but we want our computing to be as powerful as possible and as mobile as possible. And that's kind of what this is encapsulating. And we will make sacrifices to get there. I don't know if we're going to make all the sacrifices, but the other thing is we're moving away from a content creation model where we're creating content with like lots of words, like Jeff, like all of us do really, except for Ant, who does a lot of.
Are you calling me wordy?
Yes, but not what was it? What was it? You said something was wordy and wrong. You're not necessarily wordy and wrong.
Bing is going to be wordy and wrong. I'm not.
Yeah.
Bing. Thank you very much. I am not Bing. Don't Bing me.
It's my compliment of the day for Jeff. Not Bing.
It's as good as it gets.
But yeah, so I feel like this is just like this continuum. And so if you take it, I don't know where I was going with that, but that was.
Well, I think, Stacey, it goes to last week. I was asking you about chips, and you told me I was asking you about a boring story. But the major drop in laptops, and yes, pandemic, and yes, this, and yes, that. But I think your point about ever more mobile matters. But mobile, there's going to be middle grounds like tablets. Speaking of which.
Yeah. Oh, are we going to talk about your tablet?
No, I think you're probably teasing ahead to the other I/O things.
I'm curious about your reactions to this.
Will be the Pixel tablet, which we already kind of know about.
Yeah, because they showed it last year.
They showed it last year that it would happen this year at some point. It looks like it's going to happen at this I/O. I mean, it really looks like I/O is going to be a big hardware announcement event.
No Chromebooks.
No Chromebooks that I've heard of.
The Pixel tablet. Couldn't the Pixel tablet work for you, Jeff?
That's what I was going to ask, Miss Stacy. How big is the tablet? Maybe you could use it.
It's Android, not Chrome, right?
Oh, right. You like Chrome OS.
It is Android.
A soft matte look with textured feet. That's me. I have a soft matte look and textured feet because I walk around barefoot.
But sometimes in very expensive shoes.
Well, yeah, those protect my textured feet and hide them.
You'd find, I imagine you would find this pretty interesting too, Stacy, is that, so this Pixel tablet is going to have a dock with it that turns it into basically like a Nest hub, essentially, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have talked about on Twig. I know we've talked about it on All About Android over the course of the last years, as we're leading up to this final release of the Pixel tablet is that the ultimate, the kind of ultimate play is that, yes, it's a tablet, but it's also your home control device. And this dock that apparently looks like I don't know if it ships with the dock or
I think one story said it would ship with.
Okay.
It would or wouldn't? Because I heard that it might not. Okay.
Oh, really? Oh.
Because I was like, because it talked about a price for the dock being like $130 or $129.
Right. I saw conflicting reports on this. But
the 9 to 5 Google story said 4 colors, and this included dock.
That's right. So that's interesting.
And do we know what are they charging for this tablet now? Do we get a
do we
ETA
have a price on the tablet? That's a good question. I don't know.
I just saw expensive tablets, so I was like, "Oh, that's the tablet."
Is it a 7-inch or an 8-inch? Do we know? How big is it? Because that matters greatly. 8-inch, I don't like. 7. I want my Nexus 7 back.
Yeah. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to. 11 inches long, 7 inches tall.
So that's
is that equivalent to the Nexus 7?
Well, so it's more of a landscape device. 11. No, I don't believe it is. I think that's larger than the Nexus 7.
Yeah, the Nexus 7 was the Nexus 7 was 7.8 by 4.7.
Yeah. This is a standard tablet size.
Yeah. This is like a larger, regular tablet size.
Kind of like a sheet
Nexus
of paper.
7 was like a mini tablet.
Yeah, right. Duh. Yeah. Duh. I can't do vertical and horizontal without thinking. I can't do dimensions very well without thinking. I was a smart kid, I think, but I'd take those standardized tests where the pulley starts here, then it goes around I had no idea. I just gave up and said, I don't use pulleys. I'm never going to. I can't do this.
You have used pulleys. I guarantee it. It's
spatial relations. I don't do spatial relations. I can't do it. You can't sing, Stacy. I can't do spatial relations.
I can't either. Okay. They're harder for me. I got you.
Yeah.
It's a different part of the brain.
Boy, it's empathetic, Stacy, today.
It's the hat. I'm not cold and bitter. I'm like warm and snuggly. Okay, so this tablet, I'm really excited about it, but it kind of depends on how much it costs because I could get the charging dock, if that's like $130, if we're looking at a $500 tablet, that is way too effing much to pay for a kind of smart home display interaction device. Yeah. I know it's also a tablet, but I have an iPad for that and it works just great.
Tablet.
So I feel like, I don't know what Google's trying to do here, but my Lenovo display that they're now going to stop supporting, that was $250 when I bought it. And that felt like a decent price. It was kind of expensive, but I was like, yeah, I'll do that. But if you're the comps for that sort of thing feel like an iPad.
What price do you think a reasonable price?
Probably it depends on the size of the tablet, right?
It's a big tablet, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty substantial. So I would say maybe $300. But
I imagine more expensive is $400 to $500.
$300 for a full size tablet. That's what you're saying?
That'd be low.
Well, see, and the other thing is I don't need a full-size tablet. I need a good display for my smart home. Like and if you combine the two, then maybe in like 4 years after my iPad, my latest iPad dies, maybe, but then my husband would kill me because all of his games are on the iOS ecosystem. So I don't really need a Google tablet, I guess.
Right.
I'm really
For iOS, could you imagine carrying that the tablet is portable, or you already do it on your phone, or is there a benefit to carrying the home control device around?
Oh, well, I mean, we have, again, y'all are going to know I'm outing myself left and right here, but we have a couple iPads floating around. So we have a downstairs and an upstairs one for whoever wants to control things in the home already.
Okay. So,
but we don't actually use it. We just control it via the apps, like, because we also have the Google devices everywhere in the house too. Yeah. So like I'd have to start from a blank slate, I guess. And so in like 4 years, I will. And we'll see where we're at.
But what's the market? This I don't hear any thought of this coming with a keyboard and being a laptop. This is home oriented.
No.
What's the market opportunity you think Google sees here?
Well, I think it's the people who have iPads. Like, okay, in my house, I have displays for controlling things, and if it's a photo frame when it's not in use, and that's really fun, right? And we talk to it, we tell it to play Netflix if we're sitting at the breakfast bar, duo calls, whatever. We actually use ours like that. Not every day necessarily, but enough. And then if it's also a tablet, we are on people on our house are on iPads, probably actually could tell you because I have the data from our broadband usage. But like 4 or 5 hours a day, either watching videos, like somebody's watching, my husband might be on the couch watching a video, or my kids downstairs watching or like playing a game on just like to de-stress. So those are the two kind of display worlds that this could fill. But we currently have separate devices for it. And we have multiple of them. And the value is in multiple of them because there's always one to hand when you want it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And at $800 or $500 for the tablet, $130 for the dock, I don't know if we would have as many as we currently have.
Yeah, I just wonder what can Google do to get people to buy their tablet that either have an iPad and looking to replace their iPad, or don't have one and was probably going to get an iPad because iPads was just so good from a hardware and user experience. What exactly can they do? And if you're saying make this thing a little less expensive, that's a good draw, but will they compromise the hardware on that? The first thing that came to my mind when you said $300 for one, I'm like, that screen is going to look horrible at like HD when it should at least be at 1440.
What kind of sacrifices do they make in order to get it to $300? I mean, I'm on Google right now searching for the second gen Nest Hub just to understand how much that is. That's $100. $100 for a screen with a stand that controls your stuff. It's not a tablet.
Yeah.
This is the Nest Hub. Oh, hold on.
Oh, I guess it's smaller too, isn't it? It's a smaller display.
Yeah, let me give you. Okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller screen. That's right. I forgot about that. So it's not the same size screen. So there's that benefit, I suppose. I mean, if the tablet's $500, let's say, that's my guess. I don't know, that it's going to be $500, but if I had to guess, I'd say $499, let's say. If it was $499 and it came with a stand, that would be one thing, because then it's like, okay, well, I'm in the market for a tablet. I get this tablet and it can also be this thing that I don't have in my kitchen. So that'll be where it lives. I can control my smart home on it. And it's a tablet, which was my original reason to buy it. I don't know why anyone would buy that if their original goal is to get a smart home control thing. Yeah. That seems like a really expensive smart home control device. Mm-hmm. If you don't already need a tablet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you're going to spend that, you're going to have like a Savant or a Control for some system that already comes with like either a fancier version of an Android tablet or an iOS tablet that's just plopped under your wall. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no tablet lust.
Yeah,
I used to. I love my Nexus 7. I've said that 10 times. Though I was also early on the show. I think you children were too young for this. I notoriously reboxed the iPad when the iPad came out because I said it's not a creation device. It's just a watching device. That's boring.
Okay.
I was obnoxious.
Oh yeah. Well, tablets are, I mean, they're not like that's one of the things I was thinking about when we were talking about the future of smaller computers and whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
But they can be, I mean, my kid does like,
oh, now they are. Yeah.
all kinds of crazy crap.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They've definitely evolved over the years. But at the same time, like I totally agree with you, Jeff. I don't really have a whole lot of need in my life right now for a tablet.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be really curious to see how Google kind of tells the story of the Pixel tablet. Just to
how did they tell it when they introduced it last time? It was just kind of a hardware story. It wasn't a use story.
Yeah, they certainly, I mean, they really didn't say a whole lot about it. It was really added as like and by the way, sometime next year, you know, and they kind of showed a little shot of it. And that was really about it. They didn't do a whole lot of story.
All right. So let's circle back to that, Jason. Not trying to get us off the IO, but just a little tiny peninsula here.
Okay.
It's supposed to have the tensor chip.
Yeah. The Tensor G2.
So
yes.
What does AI add to the tablet experience potentially that we don't remember from our old tablets? Anything?
Good question.
I mean, honestly, I'd say that
same sort of stuff it's been adding forever.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's the same stuff that you have on your Pixel 7 or whatever. You know, I don't think that I'm guessing that there is not much in the way of difference between the Pixel tablet and the Pixel 7. Other than one is a larger screen and taps into the work that Google's done for a tablet, experience versus on the phone. I think technically they probably do very similar things. You know, the tablet has one camera, so your photo capabilities are less. But I mean, I don't know that AI gives the tablet any more capabilities than what we've already seen. Be my guess.
Yeah. All right.
You know,
I want to be excited about something to buy.
What about the Pixel 7a? No, I realize I'm stretching here, but we know we're going to see that at Google I/O as well. That's their next A series.
Well, you might get
mid-range.
I think I'm going to bet you're going to get one of those.
That's the one that usually does well, right? The A series.
Yeah, they've done pretty well with their A series. You know, they brought a lot of value to the mid-range with the A series, and they take the design of the current flagship, kind of scale it down, and make a really great kind of lower cost facsimile of it. And I think the A series has been pretty solid year after year. So almost certainly going to be hearing about. Well, I'm pretty darn certain that you're going to be hearing about the Pixel 7a at Google I/O. I think it releases same day, so that's
you're getting a
coordinated thing.
You're getting them. They're going to have a few select journalists there offering them, I think. Yes.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
But
look under your chair. Yay.
Used to be that we gave out hardware at Google I/O. Well, we're back. Everybody, something like that. Google, if you need me to write your scripts for you, just let me know.
Google Cardboard, we're bringing it back.
Right. Really?
Hey, I got the first Nexus device I was like, ooh, so fancy.
Yeah.
Fun.
Wait a minute. So when you say the first Nexus device did they give out
the phone?
The Nexus 1?
Yeah, it was under your chair.
That was an under your chair
the Nexus 2. It wasn't really under your chair. I don't know if it was under your chair.
You had to go pick it up.
I can't remember. I never had the Nexus 1. Of all the Nexuses, I never had the Nexus 1 and I never had the Nexus 4.
Let me just make sure it was the Nexus 1 because I guess maybe it was the Nexus, but I think it was their first one.
Yeah, the Nexus 1.
Because I was so flummoxed. Yeah, it was.
A little rolly ball.
Kevin was supposed to be there and he wasn't. And so I had to go. And I was like, I didn't cover mobile devices. I covered semiconductors. And I was like,
give me a chip.
Yeah, I was like, the heck am I doing here? But I managed.
The Nexus. Yeah, I remember that. That was the ball had a funny feel, a neat, funny feeling to it. It was
definitely a different phone.
I liked that phone.
That was with that phone was my earliest experience in getting, I was working at CNET at the time, and I was behind the scenes. I don't even know if I was doing Buzz Out Loud, like, in front of the mic at that point. And I was one weekend I was out to dinner with a group of people, with my wife and some friends, and then a bunch of people I didn't know. And no, that's right. I was doing an Android show at CNET, and someone at the table pulls out a phone, and I knew that Google was working on a Google phone, and he pulled it out, and it hadn't been announced publicly yet. And I looked at it, and I started talking to him, and he said, "Yeah, this is Google's new phone. It's going to be released soon." And I tweeted out that I had seen it, and then it got picked up by the news. And I felt so like, yeah, I did that. I made that news happen. I leaked it.
You're the leaker.
My only experience where that happened. I felt it was so early on in my tech
before
career.
Discord,
so
leak.
Powerful. Yeah, exactly. That's my Nexus 1 story. Okay, well, that's Google I/O. We got that coming up in a couple of weeks. I guess it's like 3 weeks away. And is anyone else here going? I mean, I'm going to be there.
Oh, rub it in, Mr. Humblebrag.
I just want to know who I'm going to see there.
I am
backup if I have to.
Goes back up. Will you be
the
there?
weekend before? I'll be in Sonoma, which is right next door to Petaluma.
I know where that is.
Ooh.
Oh,
But no, I'm not going to I/O.
Conference or wine?
Wine.
Okay.
nice.
And barbecue. Go get you some barbecue too. Oh, sorry.
Really?
That's a rant. Not a rant. That's a off the rails comment. Sorry. Carry on.
That's okay.
Is that
We never do
poking
that,
fun at Sonoma barbecue? It's just not.
No. There's legit barbecue in Calistoga.
Oh.
Just outside of Sonoma.
Send me links. I'll take it.
I shall.
I had no idea.
I'll trust you on barbecue, Ant, because I feel like you're from the South. You'll know good barbecue.
Yes, exactly. I need to know where this place is.
Damn.
So I thought kakalaki was something you made up, Ant, and then I saw somebody refer to themselves on Twitter as kakalaki, and then I thought,
heart.
I had no idea. I thought it was a Leo and an Ant joke. Little did I know.
Man, bless your heart.
It's a thing.
We got to get you outside a little more, Mr. Jarvis.
No, then I'm going to start sneezing right now. No, I'm staying inside.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. And I'm going to thank the sponsor of this episode. And then how about while I'm doing this, because there's so much, I mean, we've talked about a couple of Google stories, which is great. It's This Week in Google. There's lots of other stuff in here. So if y'all have any favorites or whatever, when I'm done with this ad, I'm curious. I'm going to open up the democracy and see what y'all want to talk about. So have that in mind.
We should turn this into like one of those game shows where we start betting with each other and trading points and convincing Ant to go against Stacy and go for a story Stacy would like, just for the just gamify it more.
Ant would never.
It's
unless it's a sports story.
Yes,
then
there are some sports stories in here. We can make that happen.
Sorry, Jason.
No, it's all good. All good. Okay, hold on to it. We're going to take a break and thank ACI Learning. This Week in Google is brought to you by ACI Learning. We love ACI Learning around here. Military members are some of the most tech-savvy people on the planet. As service members transition into civilian life, deciding where to start might actually feel very overwhelming. Well, ACI Learning proudly supports veterans wanting to choose a tech career to support their goals. Veterans are uniquely qualified for tech positions as the military uses some of the most advanced technology in the world. It also makes it the biggest target for hackers. And many service members are well trained to protect systems from attacks, which makes working in tech perfect for their experience, the experience they already have. And because tech is such a varying field, many opportunities are increasingly popular for veterans, including cybersecurity. The average salary for cybersecurity specialists, that's $116,000. And ACI Learning's information security analyst and cybersecurity specialist programs can help veterans start their careers towards that. Network administration. The average salary for an entry-level network administrator is around $75,000. ACI Learning's network support specialist program provides the training needed to pursue or advance a career in networking, preparing their students to take the CCNA certification exam, CompTIA security, and network certification exams as well. And then there's IT project management. The average salary there of an IT project manager is currently $105,000 annually in the U.S. ACI Learning's Senior Technology Project Manager program certifies students in the skills that they need to become project managers. ACI Learning offers fully customizable training for all types of learners. Doesn't matter how you learn, there's going to be a way that works for you, whether preferred in person, on demand, or remote. There are several programs available for veterans who want to fund their education as well. You can learn more about IT training funding for veterans at acilearning.com/veteran-IT-training. And then for teams of 2 to 1,000, there are volume discounts that actually start at 5 seats. You can ask about a free 2-week trial for training for all of your team. And then also put this on your calendar, April 24th through the 27th. If you happen to be at RSA, IT Pro wants to connect with you there. IT Pro, Audit Pro, and Practice Labs are now training the modern workforce together as ACI Learning. And you can visit booth 2429 at RSA to check them out. And you can choose a career to support your goals. It's what it's all about. Let ACI Learning get you started. ACI Learning and Twit TV would like to thank our veterans and active duty service members for their service to our country. Thank you. Our military uses some of the most advanced technology in the world. That makes veterans uniquely qualified for IT and cybersecurity positions. And you can learn more about ACI Learning's premium training options across audit, IT, and cybersecurity readiness at go.acilearning.com/twit. And make sure and use code TWIT30 when you go there. You'll get 30% off a standard or premium individual IT Pro membership. That's go.acilearning.com/twit and use code TWIT30 for 30% off. And we thank them for their support of This Week in Google. All right. Throwing the dice out and see where it lands. What do you all want to talk about? Is there a story in here that's really catching your imagination that you want to discuss?
Why not take a look at the Substack story? I'd like to get Mr. Jarvis's and Miss Higginbotham's thoughts on the whole journalistic side of things with Nilay Patel.
Yes.
And Chris Best.
Yeah, Chris Best, CEO of Substack, interviewed by Nilay Patel on his podcast. Nilay, I felt, framed a pretty fair question to Chris as far as what kind of content is allowed. Can't remember if he was talking about Substack in general or if it's isolated to Substack notes. I think it was both. I was just saying, would you, if allows direct racism. If somebody said that a person with brown skin shouldn't be here, would you allow that? Right. And Chris just would not answer the question. I mean, he was given so many opportunities to do so. I didn't feel like it was an unfair question to ask. Not at all. No. Not at all. It was just kind of confusing. Like, I don't understand why you don't just say no. Like, it was doubly fair by saying, I'm giving you an easy question. Yes, totally. Give me the answer you know you should give me, and he wouldn't do it. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I watched that. Well, not watched it. I listened to it, the full show, and yeah, it's definitely cringeworthy. And I mentioned this on the Sunday show. It seemed like this was a CEO trying to be safe and not say the wrong thing because he did not have. That's ironic. The publicist in his ear whispering what he can and can't say. So he literally just got quiet. At least that's what it sounded like to me. When did this occur, Ant? Was it beginning or end? This was in the middle of the episode. How was it the rest of the show after that? Yeah, it was informative. He just gave a lot of insight on the whole beef that Substack and Twitter had going. There's a lot of insight there as far as the whole API. There's just a lot of good information about the platform in general. And then in the middle of it was this incident here about content moderation. And again, listening to that, he
he sounded like he wasn't sure how to answer that, because what it ended up being is he didn't want to necessarily muddy the line between content moderation and free speech. And on Sunday, we discussed this, and Dan mentions that a lot of tech companies are trying to wrap themselves around the blanket of free speech to protect themselves and keep them out of trouble and not have to worry about content moderation. And that's not necessarily fair. But I get where they're coming from, because the example that I used, again, Sunday, and I want y'all to think about this as if you were me, a black man here in the U.S., okay? And here in my neighborhood, this house is the only family of black people in this whole neighborhood. We stand out. I mean, there was even an instance where a man at a game says, "Oh, you're the black family over there in the neighborhood," you know? So, and he didn't mean it maliciously. It's just, it was a fact.
Yeah.
But let's say I'm walking the neighborhood, minding my own business, and someone across the street or what have you says something to me out of the way. That person, I could look at him and say, you know what, that person is racist. Or I can look at him and say that person is a jackass. And a lot of times they're just jackasses out there. They're not always racist. And I think that's the line that the CEO was struggling with right there, because I can't sit here and say he is for these racist comments being on their platform, but at the same time, as a business, he doesn't necessarily want to cut out free speech and get it mixed up with moderation in some kind of way.
As a business, he doesn't have any obligations to free speech.
Right.
And I would also argue that it is better business to say, there are certain things we won't allow on the platform.
Yeah.
And I mean, anybody who, anyway.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You can't be a platform and have free speech in a world of, I don't think we're supposed to say the word that you said, jerks, because they're jerks, and jerks, their MO is to push and to to try to inflame. And so it's, again, I think, did Neela use the shopping mall? Someone used the shopping mall analogy, but I think of, again, the dinner party. Mm-hmm. You're inviting people over, and if someone doesn't behave in a way that's great, you don't let them stay, or you ask them to leave.
Right.
And if you don't like my dinner party because you're like a big fan of Nazi Germany and love, hating on brown people, then, that's okay by me. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I heard this whole free speech phrase been thrown out, a lot over the last couple of years, be it because of the stuff that has happened on Twitter, be it, what's that other one? Parler and Truth Social, and everybody there fusses. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people always talk about, this is where I can have free speech. This is where I can have free speech. But then where's the line you're drawing? Because are you just flat out racist? Or are you just a jerk,
Well, this is the whole cancel culture thing too, right?
Well, free speech has been weaponized.
Exactly. Yes.
Is it Parler or is it Parlay?
I always thought it was Parler.
It's ER. I don't know if it's necessarily French. Like,
you can't imagine those folks using the French pronunciation.
Well, it's parlay is to speak. So I just
yeah, but that's in Le Français, right?
You're right. No, you're right. My brain.
I have a hunch that crew to put that together and not necessarily leaning on the French terminology.
Yeah, this is the crowd that accuses them of being, surrender cheese monkeys. Yeah, no, they're not.
There you go.
Yeah, no.
Cheese monkeys.
Remember that?
Yep.
I do not.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think much credit to Neeli. I think it was a good journalistic effort. He was blunt. He was direct. He had the right question.
Yeah,
didn't let him off the hook. He gave him a chance, and Best showed himself and his company for what they are.
Mm.
Well, before this, was there what's the word I'm looking for? Was Substack seen as a not quite so pure? I don't know how to phrase this.
Well, yeah,
was this a first like
Substack?
tarnishing
Well,
of Substack?
it gave a lot of money to and promoted the Barry Weisses of the world, the people who send the letters and say, I have my free speech to say anything I want to say.
Yeah.
And not quite Joe Rogan, but it tickles the Joe Rogan toes there.
Okay.
And so
again, you just made a delineation right there.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
There, and I think that's what he,
trying to avoid.
as the CEO, was trying to battle with. This is all right. There's that line. Let me make sure I'm just right there below it.
Fella, you can't, as Neil showed him, you can't. You can't.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think you end up, I mean, my view on that interview is he does more damage by not making making the stand on something like on an example that was so obviously easy to say heck no to. Like, unless you are a platform that welcomes that sort of thing, and there are platforms that exist that are open to that sort of thing, and right, and so then if you actually aren't, then why don't you say that you aren't? It baffled my mind, because I guess I haven't thought of Substack in those terms.
Worse than Elon Musk. Elon Musk is just as bad, if not worse. But it shows you where they are, and it again tells us why we don't want to be in a position where that's controlled. And what I love about the Fediverse is that Truth Social is over there in the swamp, but it can be ignored. We can choose to ignore it. Which is a different way to go. When you have one singular platform and you allow it there, then that's what you're saying your platform stands for.
And let me be clear. I would have liked to hear Best say, no, this is not allowed. That's where I stand. But what I'm saying is I think I can get where he was coming from in that particular interview at the time.
Being very generous, Ant. He was trying to, I think it was a business decision. I think you're right there, but he was trying to prevaricate.
Prevaricate. There's that $20
Oh, there it is.
again.
That's a good use of prevaricate.
It was. He was trying to prevaricate for the sake of the Muskite, Rogan, Barry Weiss, Glenn Greenwalds of the world. And he was oddly trying not to offend them. And that's a really weird standard to have.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a battle with moderation and censorship.
So it's not censorship.
To hear them tell it.
To hear them tell it is right, but it's not.
A battle between properly moderating content versus censoring somebody. Because none of them want to have a censorship label on any of these platforms.
But as Stacey says, I would be happy to have the garden party that is censored, especially since I live around people I don't like very much.
Right.
Well, and the other thing is the weaponization of the phrase free speech also comes at the expense of objective truth at times. And that's a problem. And so, look, news organizations have a duty to the truth. And yes, we can slant it and we can do, there is no such thing as like, there are facts that I can put in my story, but I can certainly make the facts work in a way that has you read the story with a slightly different slant, right? And if you're uncritically reading it, you're just going to walk away thinking like, how dare they, or whatever. But I forgot where I was going with this again. Oh,
I wanted on the record. I didn't interrupt you, and
no, I know.
You.
See,
I want that to be clear here. I didn't do it. Not my fault.
You're super helpful for me because I'm so like, ooh, where was I going with this? So the point is, as a major media organization, I don't think it's that hard to say, no, I'm not going to create a platform for people whose opinions, not that I find objectionable. I do find them objectionable, but I find them actively harmful to a subset of the population. That's a problem for me. I can't condone actual harm for people. And I can report the truth in my, I can report facts. I can find objective truth, but these other companies, the other platforms, the problem is when they promote harm and they don't promote the truth. They're harmful too when they promote harm and they promote the truth. But
It's also the point you
A
made
lot of
earlier,
them don't.
Stacey,
Yeah.
that it's manipulation. It's an effort to manipulate a public to get people fired up and show yourself.
Oh, man, our
Everyone's-
media?
I mean-
No, never.
I mean, we like, I don't mean to manipulate people, and I'll state my bias right up front. I am pro-consumer in all of my dealings, right? So if I see a company that is like, charging too much money for something, or saying, I can't deliver broadband at this rate because it would be prohibitively expensive for my business, I'm going to be like, no, here's how it could be done, or I think this is dodgy. And I will say my opinion, but I'm also very upfront about what my opinion is. I don't know. Again, no point. I'm just stop talking.
I love it when you speak.
Yes, indeed. Has anyone here used Blue Sky with any?
I can't get in yet.
No, because I know that they've opened up.
You'd been in by now.
They've opened up
Android.
invites
It's
at this
only
point,
Apple.
or to some people, I guess. Yeah, I haven't used it either.
I'm eager to try it.
Micah actually did give me an invite into it. The problem is it's only iOS, right? There's no Android version of it right now. So it's like,
Love how
okay,
that
that's
works.
awesome, but I can't do anything with it right now. So it's, yeah.
I'm dying to try it. Because I think Jay Graber, who's the head of it, makes some good points. We're not trying to compete with ActivityPub, but let more flowers bloom, and that they're going to allow some things. And I think that competition is going to be good, even if it you don't use it, if it'll make people jealous on ActivityPub and vice versa, and both will rise. I think that was a very Stacey comment in a way.
Sorry, like
Rising
completely
tide.
not point. Oh God, what am I doing?
Stacey, is that hat a little tight?
I'm apparently 4:00, y'all. That's what
it's
I
waffle
stopped.
clock. Waffle clock.
It's time for waffles.
Waffle
Blood
clock.
sugar's low. Okay.
What about you put in this story here, Jeff? Well, actually, you put in this story that also, as I read through it, realized you were interviewed for this story about.
I did admit that. I admitted that.
Yeah. No, that
didn't
Mastodon, kind of checking in on Mastodon at this point. All I can say is, like, I'm just not using any real social media with any regularity right now. So I'm probably not the right person to ask, but my Mastodon activity has gone way down, but so has my Twitter activity. Like, I'm just not doing a whole lot of any of it. I'm curious to know where you all stand with Mastodon. This is the great Mastodon.
Stacey, after last week, people were ready to yell at you and say, just use twit.social. Don't use this excuse of, I don't know what server to be on. You're right there. Leo has provided generously a free and easy, good server with people who love you. Just do twit social. Just do it, Stacey. Just do it. Do
Right.
it, please.
Do it. Do it, Stacey.
She's like,
I'm
yes.
begging. I'm begging.
Yeah, maybe.
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 You know what? That's like when I asked my wife something, she says, oh, it's fine. Fine and maybe
Yeah.
are
Just-
not good words. No.
Jeff, I got expensive shoes to shop for. I don't know if I need to be on Mastodon. I'm working on, I got my own stuff going on, man.
Yeah, I still barely use it now, but like Mr. Howell it's a generality far as social. I'm not really using much of anything, and if I am doing it, a lot of it's just automation. I keep seeing, I'll pop into our twit.social instance and I'll see stuff from Miss Adriana, and I see it really, really late because I don't come in here, but I appreciate her sharing these interesting stories with us that we could potentially put on the show for Twig, because she listens to Twig.
That's the one weakness, I think, is that you miss stuff. I mean, I'm on Mastodon every day. Absolutely. Every morning I read, in papers and news sites, and I post stuff on both Twitter and Mastodon. I like the discussion on Mastodon. The one thing I said to Wilfred, who did the article, is that I miss a good algorithm to show me what I missed. That's really what I want. That there was stuff overnight that I didn't see and I'm not going to see. And that's the one thing that I wish for. Quote tweet would be convenient. Yeah. Better search. Yeah. Okay. I agree with those two things. I think they'll come. But I want to choose the algorithm. So what I'm wishing for is for somebody to come along and offer a perfectly by choice algorithm. There's a guy who does a feed. I'll see if I can find it off the bat. I love that he does this. He just goes through his own feed and says, here's stuff that he missed. And then he shares that in turn, and it's good stuff. And I like it a lot. So what happens is the half-life of a discussion. Oh, here it is. David's alter algo ego. Okay. The address is Colarusso, COLARUSSO _algo at law.builders. He also does a bot that has top links that interest him, right? So that kind of little service is good. That's only his feed. If I could use his for mine, I would love that. But so what happens is the half-life of a discussion is very, very short. Because of the algorithm and because of the way it works on Twitter, things can last for a day or two, which is good, I think. It's bad if you're getting smashed.
Yeah, that's the thing. It goes both ways.
It goes both ways, absolutely. But more people from different time zones can enter in and can add to a conversation, and I like that. And on Mastodon, it either collects a lot or it disappears pretty quickly. And so that's why I miss things, because I don't see people boosting stuff that they happen to see that I didn't see. That to me is the main weakness in Mastodon. But I love it. I love where it's going. I had it when the whole Substack thing came out. I went on and I speculated and I said, "Why? I don't think anyone has yet done an activity pub version of Substack." I would love to see that kind of thing. Go ahead.
What you're saying is totally different from what I am practicing, if you will. When I go into twit.social, I immediately just go to notifications. I'm not even scrolling through reading anything else anymore because I'm not there. And even with Twitter, I log on to Twitter and I just go to notifications because I don't even want to see what's being posted out there anymore. Maybe in a couple of weeks that'll change. Maybe in a month that'll change. But right now, because I know people are so pissed off and angry, and I just get tired of reading through all of the. It brings me down basically, and I don't want to do that. So if anything, when I pop in there, I just go to the notification column, and if the first couple of things are actual messages to me, I'll try to acknowledge it. But most of the time, it's just someone acknowledging that they saw one of my auto posts go out. And then I'm out. And I'm done with social media for the day.
Yeah, I miss talking to people on Twitter and having like little conversations with my Twitter friends. But I don't have them anymore. So I'm just on there. Yeah, I've got auto social things. Which, by the way, Jason, if you want to play around with it, I have IFT auto-generating from my stories tweets, but they have a summarize function that ties into Google Docs. So if you want to play, create a Google Sheets, tie in that trigger when you put an article into Google Sheets for the rundown, it will actually generate a summary for you.
Oh, wow.
Little hacks.
But that was going to be my thing of the week, and maybe it should have been, but I just dropped it now.
She's trying to jump to the end of the show is what she's trying to do.
No, I was playing with it. So part of the reason I was having trouble forming coherent thoughts was because I was also trying to make it work with my Google Sheets, but I cannot do 8 things at one time because I just can't. Well, but it is feasible and it would work.
ChatGPT might be able to help you do 8 things at once. You could have like 4 jobs at once. That's what we learned earlier. Yeah.
Not while I'm talking at the same time.
Yeah, true. I know that.
That makes me.
That's cool.
That your if tool makes me think about Zapier, because I use Zapier, and Zapier used to be a sponsor here on the network, I think. And they have it's a free service, and I use it for part of my automation. But I got an email earlier today to where now, if you're using Zapier for Twitter, you're going to have to go to their paid plan of Zapier because changes to the Twitter API is making things a little bit more difficult, if you will.
Oh, you know what? And Zapier has OpenAI, ChatGPT 3, and DALL-E integrations. Let's see if they have a good summary one. I also have a Zapier account.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of my stuff is run through that and Buffer, and I literally just in the mornings I'll set some things up and forget it. And so a lot of times the notifications that I do catch in the day, it takes me a minute to figure out what are these people talking about. I don't know what I posted. Oh yeah, okay, now I remember. Yeah.
Stacey, you mentioned that you aren't having as many conversations on Twitter as you used to. Is that a change that you have made, or just a change like in how you're approaching Twitter, or is that just you've noticed that since, I don't know, the Musk takeover or something?
Yeah, the people I used to interact with are either not there or they're like me. They're just posting automated posts.
Mm-hmm.
So, I actually just yesterday, I posted something that I historically, would have, where I was talking about like my lights going on at 6 a.m. and blinking for no apparent reason. And to me, it was just a funny story, but I would, like, people used to share more of those that you could respond to and talk to them about. And people, talk to me a little.
I used to also. And now it just doesn't.
It feels dirty. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to the wrong dinner parties, and I don't want to be seen in those dinner parties.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for my job, I do have to like maintain some sort of presence.
Right.
It's like.
We're
Let me
broadcasters.
Let me ask you this, Stacey, and Ant, and Jason, all of you. So NPR went off Twitter because Musk finally pissed them off so much by calling them a government-supported media, right?
Right.
And they left, and people applauded them, and PBS went to, and CBC is going off too. On the one hand, I certainly agree with that. Don't go to the bad dinner party. On the other hand, there's a lot of people still there, and if all the news organizations left Twitter, doesn't it get a lot worse for public discourse? Is there a responsibility for a news organization like NPR to stay, or a responsibility to go? What do you guys think?
This is hard.
Not you as an individual, but an organization like them. Yeah. I
think the poking of the stick, I mean, what Twitter did to NPR in terms of like it, I was like, yeah, you know what? NPR should leave. They should be like, yeah, I don't have to put up with your crap, Twitter. You're nothing to me. And you know what? Good for them. So I tend to think that I'd probably leave Twitter if I didn't have a contractual obligation as part of my ad things to tweet things for them. So I do a tweet, and we're writing it out of the contracts moving forward. But for the next few months, I have to be there and I have to do that. So I will. And I clearly delineate them as sponsored messages. Y'all don't worry.
Yeah, that's right.
Secret.
Right.
And I am truly grateful that these people are sponsoring the show, whatever. But I don't blame NPR, and I think it was probably the right thing to do.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I mean, who does NPR owe that allegiance to? I don't know. I think as a company and as individuals, we have to make choices that line up with our values. When I think of NPR, I think of strong values, and I'm not surprised that they would choose to venture away, and I support that. I think that's a strong position to decide around.
Again, Mr. Laporte has said quite openly, we need to stop using Twitter. We as in twit, but at this point we shouldn't, because it works for us from a corporate standpoint to an extent anyway. So it doesn't make sense for us to stop using Twitter as Twit TV. And now, granted, if I stop using Twitter, I don't think anybody would notice like that. But again, I'm not the same entity as Twit is.
Of course, it's kind of like if you're IBM or Volkswagen, how long do you sell stuff to the Nazis? I don't know, man.
Yeah. But how long do you keep?
These people are not actively, they are. Some of them are actively Nazis, but they're not totally putting 12 million people into camps, which, is a really low bar. But yeah, because this is those are the things I think about. I'm like, oh, I do not want to support this at all.
Well, it's the same way. I'm disgusted by what Chris Best and and Substack, and so I'm likely to say I'm never planning to use Substack unless that changes. But I'm on Twitter still, and Elon Musk is even worse. So
right. I mean, he's still doing what he wants to do on his platform. You know,
he's doing awful stuff. He just permanently suspended a Wired journalist for tweeting his own story about something involving Twitter. You know, so free speech, my rear end.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, just happened.
Can't be it. I mean, like, I don't want to go to there anymore.
You can't make me, but Stacey.
Wow.
Twit.social is a very nice place.
It is.
It's cozy.
Okay, but
It's cozy.
so Ohm had to force me onto Twitter. Like,
Yeah.
I joined forever ago, but I joined because Ohm was like, every single one of you needs to make Twitter accounts and get on it and start tweeting once a day. Like, it was part of my literal job. So I was like,
Did you whine before doing it?
And
Oh,
tweeted
yes,
once
I
a
did.
day. She did.
I whined, but I got into it and enough people were there that it became fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Mhm.
not social.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see
Right.
me on anything social.
All right.
Antisocial Stacey.
I mean, yeah,
There
I'm
you go.
fun to talk to at a party if you like to talk about nerdy stuff. But that's about it.
It's the right party.
Let's change the mood of this party a little bit. Let's crank it up a notch. How about this story about AI making a duet with Drake and The Weeknd? Did you all check this
I
out?
wish
you
we could
hear it?
play it still.
I
So
don't think you can play it anymore.
yeah, so the examples are down. I should have found, of course they're
It's on YouTube.
Do you want me to sing
We can't play it though. Anyway,
in the style
I mean,
of
if
Drake
we
and
played
The
it, it would
Weeknd?
probably be taken down. It's so current. So what is the story here? Someone went on TikTok and actually used AI to create a duo of or a duet, sorry, of Drake and The Weeknd, two artists who did not actually record this song together. That we're not going to play because we'll probably get taken down if we do. But I don't know.
But there's a question here. So a lawyer on Mastodon said, "Whoa, if they took it down because they didn't want to peeve Universal Music Group, okay, I understand. If they took it down because they thought it was a copyright issue, it ain't.
It isn't a copyright
it's
issue.
fair use.
Right?
It's a considerable change. Well,
Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, so but that's I think the question, because in order to represent The Weeknd and Drake's likeness, you have to train a system on their voice.
Well, that's the whole other question, right?
That's
Is you have
sampling,
now
right? Or I don't know what that
newspapers
is, but that's something.
I mean, no, to train them. I mean, you could just let them listen. You could let them listen to the radio in Houston, and they would get Drake all day long.
Yeah,
They would.
yeah.
But are we allowed?
She knows that.
Well, what you're seeing now is I was at an event, a Semaphore event last week, and Barry Diller is trying to say we have to stop this. We have to stop them from training on our stuff. And newspapers are saying this, and entertainment companies are saying this. But Stacey's exactly right. You're in public. You're out there. It's a really dangerous thing for enlightened societies to say you're not allowed to know that. You can't remember that. You can't be inspired by that. And so I think, and we already have. No, there's a different way to do that. Reddit just announced that they're going to charge for their API, mainly because they know that these places are scraping them like crazy. They want to make some money on it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think that's too bad for society and for researchers that they're not going to get access to this API because it's really valuable. But okay, it's their company. They can do what they want. But courts so far, and the federal government so far has said that the product of AI is not copyrightable. So if it's not copyrightable, how is it a copyright violation in a sense too? It's a really interesting, copyright is just outmoded as hell. And this is poking holes in it in ways that it's going to take years to go through the courts on.
So let me ask, because you have a right to your likeness, right? And I'm trying to think of what that's called.
That's it.
It might be called a right to your likeness.
I think it is called that, yes.
Rights to your own, for your name and likeness, right?
Yes,
Yep.
right.
So
Personality rights.
by impersonating, so instead of copyright, Drake could say, this clearly sounds like me and is an impersonation.
That's a better case. You're right. Yep.
And that's a legal argument that's been made.
But what about cover bands?
Yeah. That was going to be my question
Okay.
too. Drake is not the only person in
if
this
you
world that
wanna
sounds
play-
like Drake.
You should hear my Springsteen imitation, you know.
Oh,
Hold on.
gosh.
If you play in a cover band publicly, do you license? There is a performance license for this.
For the song. You're the
Okay.
who owns the lyrics or the music, but not for sounding like Springsteen. And if you made up a
Reality
song,
of cover bands.
if you completely made up a song that would be in the style of Springsteen, but long before AI, you could do that.
Yeah.
Now, there could be a fraudulent thing here where but it wasn't a fraudulent. It said this is AI. This made it up.
So here's a lawyer
You could always
talking
find a
about
lawyer to say
tribute
something.
acts versus covers. They are trading off the name, brand, and images. So let's look at the case law. Oh, as an example, so there is case law in this. 2010, lawyers for Universal Music in Sweden sent out legal notices to more than 15 ABBA tribute acts demanding to stop trading off the name ABBA. Many of them were forced to change their names or risk being sued. So there is
Bubba.
precedent to go against tribute bands if someone really wants to. And it seems to be based off of
Like this.
a likelihood of confusion between the acts. So there, the
right.
likelihood of, so the legal test, does the original act possess a commercial interest in their identity? If you're Drake, yes. Has a tribute act used some of the original act's identity without permission? Yes. Has a tribute act created some sort of damage? I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't
There's
know.
also the
That's really
fair
interesting.
use. There's fair use, which, as Lawrence Lessig says, is nothing but the right to hire a lawyer. But if things are changed enough, and the thing about this case was, it's not a song they ever sang.
Right. Yeah, it's not a song that
It's a
they're
made up song.
yes. That's so interesting. Yeah.
So you're not stealing the music. You're not stealing the lyrics. You're being open about saying this is AI made this up. These guys haven't sung together in this format. Now it could get copied
know
and
if-
fool people.
Did he
But
say it?
oh yeah, he said it was AI. He said it was
Okay.
AI.
He did. He
Yep,
disclosed that it
yep.
was AI. He
Right up
posted,
front.
this is AI of Drake and The Weeknd. If he had posted this and not mentioned their names, would that absolve in any way? You know what I mean? Like labeling it as, and like, I think it was even on Spotify. And they ended up removing it from Spotify. But there I could see some real, kind of lines being crossed where, this is a song, Drake, The Weeknd. Meanwhile, neither of them actually had anything to do with it. If there's money being generated off of this, it's certainly not going to them. Maybe in the future it will, because these are things that are getting figured out right now.
That's where this is fascinating.
That's where this is headed.
I mean, how many people have been inspired by Shakespeare, and Shakespeare doesn't get a dime anymore, right? And it's okay. Obviously, that's copyright time. I know.
He's been dead for
Poor Bill. All the
half a
money he
century,
should
half a
make.
millennium.
Yeah, I feel so bad for Shakespeare.
Yeah. Well, actually, get me going. I just got a book here. I just got a new book from the Bodleian Library about
The Money
making of
Ode to Shakespeare by
First Folio. And the reason this is interesting is because there were so many pirated bad versions of Shakespeare out there that when he died, two of his friends from stage said, we've got to put together the authoritative Shakespeare because it sucks what's out there. And in my book, in the Gutenberg parenthesis, out in June, available for pre-order now, I quote the bad, I think it's the bad Hamlet, I think it is, hilarious, that got out there. So they came and they said, we're gonna create the definitive Shakespeare because it matters. Shakespeare's name was being used on collections of poems he had nothing to do with. And he said, no, don't do that. And this is all before there were laws around this. So yeah, Stacey, you're right. Likeness is real. It matters, but this pushes it in fascinating ways.
Oh yeah. And I think, you can find the version on YouTube. I think it's really compelling until they hit the falsettos for Drake.
Yeah.
And The Weeknd is fine.
Yeah.
It's by no means a perfect, sounding song. It totally has that kind of dusty AI quality to it. But But what it reminds me of is, I think it was on this show last week when I mentioned I was away on vacation and I thought about, like, in the future, are we going to ask, an AI to create the movie we watched tonight? And it's kind of the same with music, right? Like, which has been another thing that I've thought about. If I want to, at a certain point with AI, create a new Underworld album, there's, X number of Underworld albums that exist to learn from. Like, I imagine it might be possible to hear.
Well, that's interesting, Jason. Even if you look at a Spotify and it creates a Madonna radio, it's using Madonna's name with music that isn't Madonna's. That's like Madonna. And if you like Madonna, you'll like this. It's kind of the same.
No, it is not, because all the Madonna songs that are on there are clearly labeled Madonna. She gets money, and so does everybody else who's part of that playlist.
They could do the whole playlist without Madonna, but still use her name to say this is cheap. Let's say Madonna refused to be on Spotify, but they create a playlist.
Well, no, they've
like
done that
Madonna.
in the past.
Yeah, they have.
Who was
Taylor?
Taylor Swift,
Let's
right?
say Taylor didn't want to be on Spotify, right?
Right. She didn't want to be on.
No, it was Beyonce.
Both.
Oh, yeah. Beyonce wanted Tidal
That's right.
exclusive, of course, with Jay-Z running
For that man. All right.
I don't know. I find this stuff.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. Absolutely fascinating to watch.
Absolutely.
You know what I found fascinating to watch?
What?
The video of a robot sorting trash. Was it?
You like that one? Wasn't that cool?
Line 38. There's nothing much really to say here except for I could have watched this all day long.
Well, Google released a couple things like this. This is one of them, where it's not just AI with text and images and music. It's obviously also robotics. And
yeah, okay. This goes over.
It's a controlled environment. Well, scroll and look at this classroom where they have a bunch of them doing it at once. Keep going. I think.
Oh, I see it.
A little lower. No, a little lower.
bit lower.
A little lower. No, a little. There you go. So there's the laboratory where all of the robots are sorting all the trash.
What would be cool is if they showed like a new piece of trash coming in, one robot figuring out where it was going, get
robot
positive
scratches its
reinforcement
head.
on it, and then immediately all the other robots know what to do with it. That is the true power of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
neural network.
I mean, I don't know if it's it's a network.
Isn't this cool though?
It's a pretty adorable.
I thought it was really cool. That's why.
And there are human beings who are now employed to do this work. It is not pleasant work. It smells.
Yeah.
It's important for the environment to get it done. To your point earlier, Ant, about the scut work, this is the scut work you want machines to do.
Yeah.
I want to hand my trash. Like sometimes when you get to a place and you see all that, like I remember going to the offices at GigHome way back in the day because it was in California, and I would just stand there at the kitchen and I'd just be like,
what do I do?
Which bin does this go in?
Yeah. Is this blue or green? Oh no.
Yeah, it could be a challenge.
Black. Jeez. Yeah.
Now you got to compost and all that. Oh my Lord.
I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
It gets easier, but one day. All right.
That's a pretty
it's
a cute robot, I have to say. It looks like it's like
robot.
Oh, okay, I'll put that over there.
It's dainty, right? It's
kind of dainty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I really don't want
Which is very endearing about it. As I watch those videos, I'm like, I like that robot. It really wants to get its job right. It really wants to do the right thing.
You have robot empathy, Jason.
Yes. Apparently I do. Should we do a change log? A minimal change log? Because there's really not much in here.
Can I suggest first one little TikTok corner?
Oh, yeah.
Stacey's on her. I want to hear about this. Whether this was supposed to have been huge news. Huge news.
It was huge news on Reddit. Okay, y'all. Go on.
Yes. Go for it.
So I'm going through TikTok. And here's a video of a ferry run aground off Bainbridge Island. And the audio really is the announcer on the ship saying, abandoned ship.
Yeah, a friend of mine lives down there. They're like, it was loud. It was annoying. It was also hilarious. Yes, the Walla Walla, which is one of our ferries, ran aground.
I expected to see people doing dives off.
Yeah.
No, they got so they the passengers were taken off via the fast ferry system. So they're all safe.
Okay,
They spent, I mean, some of them spent like 9 hours on the boat. And
Oh,
then
no,
they got back
really?
the next day
Wow.
to get their cars. Yeah, because
Oh, I
it
see.
was low tide and they couldn't get the boat out, and then they had to get other boats in, but those boats had to wait for there to be enough tide, and also they had to there's a shortage. This is a lack of infrastructure funding. There's a shortage of available boats in the Washington State
It's
area.
all better than bridges, I would say. All worth the price.
The Bremerton route's long. It's an hour-long boat ride, so that's not a
Man.
bridge. That's not a bridge-worthy span.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Now you can go to the change.
Excellent. Thank you for the TikTok corner. And now it's time for the change log.
The Google changelog.
Not much of a change log this week. Starting, but we got 4 things in here, so it qualifies at least. Google Fi, now known as Google Fi Wireless, apparently getting a redesign of the app.
Why do
the
they do
icon.
this? Renaming everything.
Yeah,
Doesn't help
Google cannot help itself. Google gets bored of its names and has to rename them. And then when it gets bored even further, it has to kill them. I mean, it's weird. But you're right.
Chai needs to fix that. He could easily fix that. He's the CEO. Hey, stop this with this renaming crap, people.
Dadgummit. Now, what was you said before? You're the best dadgum? No, what was it?
No. The best dadgum search engine out here.
Best dadgummit. Stop with these names. Sundar.
So refer to it no longer as Google Fi, no longer as Project Fi. That was a while ago. It is now Google Fi Wireless. The whole thing. If you don't say the whole thing, I don't know what you're talking about. So keep that in
At
mind.
least Project Fi was the early days, and it sounded like, hey, this is new. We're working on
The
this.
beta. It's a
I get
project.
that. But going from Google Fi to Google Fi Wireless, I don't know. I guess they don't want to confuse it with the other infrastructure. What is it? Google Fiber stuff, potentially.
I guess. Who the heck knows? Google just likes to change things. It's the Google way. What can we say? If you've racked up any Play Store points, the Play points that I think up until now you could just use for like digital goods and stuff. Now Google is making it so that you can redeem your Play points for actual physical goods, things like shirts, socks, water bottles, Instacart orders, DoorDash. So if you've been racking up those Play points, I think I have a decent amount racked up because I never really spend them on apps or anything like that. So I think I just collect them.
I don't know. Where do I find Play points? I don't know.
In the upper right on your phone.
Under Play?
Yeah, in the Play Store. If you spend any money in the Play Store, if you're renting video, renting movies.
All right, how many points do you each have?
Oh boy, probably not many, but I have
1,600.
Whoa!
Wow. So you could get
397.
You have wait a minute, I missed that. What was that, Jeff?
397.
397.
Where do you find these?
I have 350.
Right
when you
as soon
open
as you
Play,
open Play,
it'll
it's right
show
at the
you
top right.
in the search box and then go away.
Yeah, I have 350.
You got to be quick, Stacy.
So not much.
Maybe it's under my other account.
Possibly.
Let's see.
I don't know how I have 1,600, but sure.
Dang,
I
you
don't
can
have
get.
any points.
Let's see here. Let's explore what Ann could get. You could get $10 off one order of $25 at DoorDash.
That would be no.
You could get 2 months free grocery delivery at Instacart. You could get Google sunglasses, a Google recycled
maybe.
bottle.
Yeah, and with points left over.
Yeah.
But you
throw
you gotta
around.
Keep working here. You got to keep working to get the dino socks.
Yeah.
I want the dino socks.
You're going to have to spend a little more to get those
Wow.
dino socks. So,
Stacey, would you wear the dino socks with expensive shoes?
Oh,
heck yeah.
yeah. I wear, yeah. Oh, I don't have any points. It says I don't.
Oh,
which is weird because
how do I get that many points? I mean, I buy, I'll pay for apps, but I don't think I pay for that many. Jeez, 1,600. I'm looking at this little scale down here at the bottom too. It just.
Oh, you have to join to get play points, y'all.
I don't even remember joining.
Yeah.
I don't either.
Apparently we did.
Maybe I have some weird, but
we're joiners.
Look,
Yeah.
I don't know if you could see it or not. Just in case people. Can't see. It's not going to focus.
No, it's blurry.
But yeah, 1609 to
Get
be
yourself
exact.
some sunglasses. Some
All right,
real
let me
high
get
quality
see the
Google
play-
sunglasses.
if you go under your name, there is a play points icon in the menu that you can look and see if you have play points too.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to look at like a transaction register to see what allowed
Oh,
to
geez.
accumulate that many.
Export a CSV.
You
file.
watch a lot of, maybe it's your YouTube subscription.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, because I pay for premium every month, as well as YouTube TV. I'm earning
That must be
1.2 points per dollar, according to this screen.
1.2 points. Is that what you said? 1.2?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So,
according to this screen here. And it says I'm a gold member.
okay.
Oh yeah, they have a bronze something and gold. I saw that as options. And the higher you are, the more points you earn on every purchase. It's like being an airline member.
Weekly prize. I get a gold prize, weekly prize. Apparently, and it expires in one day. Win something every week. Let me hit this claim button. Oh,
Yep.
there. Let's see.
There it is.
Claim and tap to see what's inside. Win up to 200 play points. I'm going to tap it to see what's inside. It's thinking. What, you just gave me 7 play points to add to my 1,600.
Oh, see,
You're getting for the dino socks.
I got it as well. I'm going to tap to see what's inside for me too. What did I get? 6. You beat me
6
by
points.
1, and
Okay.
That's that gold status. He's earning more points.
Yeah.
apparently so.
So now I have 1,616 points.
Man,
I'm only silver. And is gold.
This is the first time I feel privileged, y'all.
And
I spend too much on shoes. You spend too much on the Play Store.
yep. Soon you can buy shoes on the Play Store. You never know with your Play
Wow,
points.
that's crazy.
Nest thermostat gets Matter support. That a big deal, I guess.
Miss Stacy.
People were upset because it's only the most recent one, the cheapest
The
Nest.
2020.
I can't remember what version. Yeah. So if you have an older Nest, you're not getting Matter. We knew that was coming, but this is the first time it's official and people are sad.
Oh,
They do, ironically, have Thread on many of those thermostats because Nest, Tony Fadell, and the Nest team were the ones who pushed the concept of the Thread network. But such is life.
such is life. New Nest thermostat, released in 2020, gets that Matter support starting yesterday. So there you go.
Yeah, starting yesterday. It's rolling out over the next few weeks, so it may take a second.
Right. And I told you it was a short change log. Google Chat, if you're using the web interface, you get a full redesigned web interface, updated with Material U. I feel like when I'm doing Material U updates, I'm really scraping the barrel.
Barrel. Yeah, exactly. Time for the theme.
There you go. Good enough. All right. Any last things before we get into picks and stuff? We can just jump into picks too. Doesn't matter. It's your call. It's democracy.
I thought
Waffles.
the sports story was interesting.
All right. Tell us why the sports story. Which one is that?
Line 64.
Okay.
You know, we talk about privacy and data harvesting and all of that. But the school that I love to hate, University of South Carolina football team, they were able to get $1 million boost in ticket sales recently. Why? Because of the shopping site fanatics.com. USC was able to tap into the API and figure out, okay, what customers were buying, when they were buying it, and get the other information that says, you know what, let's reach out to them and see if we can get them to buy some more tickets for our games. And that's freaking brilliant. It's out there, but then you look at it from the consumer standpoint. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that their data is being scraped like that. Mm-hmm. And so I dug into it a little bit more, and it's clearly in the terms of services. It's also in the privacy statement. But you can opt out of this stuff. They do allow you to opt out, but if you don't know about it, you're not going to opt out. So they don't necessarily advertise this unless it's in an email. After you place your order, you get your little confirmation email. The most you'll see is at the bottom of it. Hey, if you don't want to see any more messages about this order, just click here to manage your subscriptions or stuff like that. But I thought it was fascinating that somebody's besides Amazon is using all of this data to make money. And that's a lot of money, $1 million.
Spotify does it to promote artists that you listen to if they're coming in concert near you, because they have that data.
Yes, they got it too. Yeah.
I mean, I mind stuff like that less. I don't know. How would you, I mean, because like if you're buying merchandise for a sports team and then you're told that they have tickets available or they're playing here, is that a okay use of your data, or you would just rather not?
I rather that be something I find out on my own by searching the schedule and stuff like that. But again, we're in the bubble, we're not quote normal people. I don't want them, excuse me. Heck, a lot of times I don't even have stuff shipped to my house. Depends on what it is. Cause I don't want that data out there. So
okay.
Yeah, I'd rather just go to the website and look at my favorite team schedule and see where they're going to be on which day and look at my calendar and go from there. I don't need them reaching out to me because they connected to an API.
Okay. I kind of like this. It's totally fair. I kind of appreciate the Spotify integration because for some of the less popular artists, like I know when Taylor Swift is coming into town, but I may not know when like Slade Cleaves is coming into town. So I kind of think it's a nice thing, but I can see, I can see your point too.
Gary's
to me, that's like the least offensive use of my data out there.
Yeah, and that is fairly not as offensive. Gary's here in the Discord says, I think Ant is saying that people don't read terms of service docs. No, we don't.
That's true.
We don't. I just have no life, so every now and then I do read them.
Nothing like kicking back with some terms of service docs.
What you do when you need to go to bed at night.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Curious. Some of the stuff is so curious though, because they'll have. Okay, we will collect your data, but we'll only collect this much, and we won't share this pile of the data, but we will share this pile of the data, but only if you tell us not to. But then, if you want us not to share, you need to go and click over here to open up this page, and then you scroll through that page, and it's like another mismatch of, all right, make sure you click here, and then it says, oh, wait a minute, just shoot us an email. to opt out, and you never know if that email gets it's absolutely. So it's a lot of stuff like that in these. But again, I have no life. I'm sorry.
You know what, Ant? You're gonna love this. I wrote a story. I think I put it on the website yesterday, maybe, about medical privacy, and I looked at some creepy terms of service. You can go look at that and be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Don't get a replacement knee with smart sensors in it.
Yikes.
All right. Is that your pick, Stacey? Do you want that to be your pick? Because I know you unveiled your pick earlier. Do you have a pick?
Well, I have lots of things. I have so many things, y'all. I got the new Sonos Era 300 speakers for my birthday. I actually got them before my birthday, but my husband made me wait to open them until my birthday.
He said bitterly, whining.
And so a couple things. One, I use the Sonos rebate program. I don't know if everybody has, I had some old Sonos gear sticking around. So I got 30% off just by putting in the serial number and promising to throw that away. And that was actually part of like, because I can't resell it anymore because Sonos now bricks their old gear.
Right.
I know exactly where this is coming from.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the full story. But if you have it and you're pissed at Sonos and you're like, I wanted to resell it, well, you could get 30% off of the new item. Yay.
Nice.
So they were still really expensive, but they sound amazing. And the downside, I will say, of this is I cannot for the life of me figure out how to listen to Dolby Atmos fancy spatial audio music on my Sonos. And it's just, so they sound great. They're designed to be like 3D sound. They're designed in this weird shape. I'm sure if you care about this sort of thing, you've seen them. But I have Amazon Music. I subscribe to it so I could play with this. And I just can't figure out how to listen only to that. And not that I want to, because there's not enough of it, but yeah. So setting these up was the most complicated thing I've ever had to do because I wanted to use, because of iOS and Android issues. So there was that. And then tying the different music accounts to different voice services. We have broken technology because it took me like an hour to set everything up and I sort of knew what I was doing. So I will just say that technology is broken and all of our integrations suck and the user experience is terrible, but the speakers sound great. Even if I'm not listening to the spatial audio.
Grump, smile.
After all that, at the end of the day, isn't that what matters most out of a speaker from Sonos? How does it sound?
I mean, everybody in my family is very happy. They replaced my Nest Audio speakers that were just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But the best of all the smart speakers, because I really wanted a smart speaker. So if you have questions, let me know. I don't know if I'll write a review. Probably not. But that was my pick of the week.
Nice.
I'd make y'all listen to it, but
we
you
wouldn't
can't
get the full
hear
effect.
the quality.
Yeah. It wouldn't work. Wouldn't do a whole lot. It would still sound like a speaker on the other side of the room through the mic.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Transfer through my microphone.
Yes, exactly. Right. The Sonos Era 300. Jeff, what you got?
All right. Well, I have to mention two things given the podcast. Neither of these is down on my bottom list, but one is that Americans mostly believe the news they hear on podcasts. Of course, because it's done by wonderful people like us. We're reading off the news, so why wouldn't it be right? That was one. That's all I need to say about that. The other one I think is worth noting is that the last two computer magazines in print have died. Maximum PC and Mac Life are out of print. It was quite a long run, almost half a century, according to Technologizer, but it's gone. I used to collect Byte magazines. I didn't understand more than 5% of it, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I used to write for PC Magazine and all these magazines doing, a review of the latest version of WordStar, that kind of stuff, but they're gone.
Gone.
My mom wrote her thesis on WordStar.
Yeah, I love it. Control H, Control H, Control H, Control H, right? Yeah.
Sound of my childhood was the dot matrix printer printing off pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
boy.
I saw this article. We talked about it a little bit on Twit this weekend. Yeah, a little bit of a tear. I mean, my computer magazines were more Commodore 64 related back in the late 80s. And then in the PC era, like late 90s, I remember a handful, and I do mean a handful because they were huge, of Computer Shopper. And so, yeah. Computer Shopper, I don't know if you remember, that thing was gigantic, comically large every single time. But yeah, that's kind of crazy to think. Like, I mean, the last two computer magazines, that's an era, the end of an era. Sad.
Yeah.
And what you got?
All right. I had to fill mine in here. First one is Luma Touch. Luma Touch, I've spoken about them in the past. They've added a multicam support. And again, as I said earlier in the show, with having a foldable device, an app like this would be pretty dadgum cool, because you could have all of your controls and the timeline down on one screen, and then the viewer up at the top with your source files and your program files at the top. That would be awesome. But anyway, they've added multicam support this week for an in-app purchase. I think it's like $20, if that. And multicam support is, for people that's not familiar with video editing, is you can get all of your cameras shooting a scene, or like just shooting our show here at Twig, different cameras, and you can sync all of those cameras up in post, and you can do your cuts in post, because not everybody has a TriCaster like we do and can do the cuts the way Mr. Benito is doing. But this way, with multicam support in your video editor, it allows you to do your cuts in post to make it look the way you want it to look. But that's Luma Touch on iOS and Android. And lastly, I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Terrell. He's a loyal listener of Twig. You've been on my mind, sir. Thank you for all your support of us, and haven't heard from you in a little bit. I hope you're doing okay. And so I wanted to say it publicly, just in case you're listening.
Nice. Thank you, Ant. My pick is a book I just finished. I'm pretty certain I remember once upon a time being filling in for Leo, and one of my picks being a book by the author Lisa D'Amour, PhD. She's written a lot of books about girls' health and like young women that transition from being a girl into a woman. And I've just personally, I've found them incredibly helpful because I have two daughters, and they, my oldest daughter just turned 13 a couple of months ago. And so it's very, it's, any parents would know it's an interesting time, and I'm loving where I'm at with our family and everything like that. But I also want to understand things that I might not know. And so Lisa D'Amour just writes really compelling books on the topic. And I just finished a book by her called Under Pressure: Confronting the Epidemic of Stress and Anxiety in Girls. And it was fantastic. And I've just started another of her books that she released, I think like a year and a half ago, called The Emotional Lives of Teenagers: Raising Connected, Capable, and Compassionate Adolescents. And I'm just like, I'm in this like mode of just being incredibly captivated by this, and taking some of the things that I'm reading and trying to figure out how I talk with my daughter about different things better than maybe I would have had I not read these books. So any parents out there of children, because I think The Emotional Lives of Teenagers, that's not just targeted just at young girls. It's targeted
boys
at all.
Have emotions too.
Absolutely. And the book focuses heavily on that as well. That's equally as important. It's very important. So she's just a really great author. And actually, if you get her books on Audible, she reads them all. It's in her voice. And cool. I love it when authors do that. And especially when they're good at doing that, and she is very good at it. So, so there you go. Her name is Lisa D'Amour, PhD. Look for her books. She is very, very smart. I'm learning a lot from her.
Good pick.
Yeah. But we have reached the end of this episode of This Week in Google. Always a lot of fun. Always appreciate the opportunity to fill in for Leo when Leo is out. So thanks to you three for welcoming me back once again. And next week, Leo will be sitting in his chair in this studio. So you'll have Leo back. So welcome Leo back when he gets here. What do you want to leave people with? Stacy, anything that you're working on that you want to tease, or no?
She's checking for the bird. Make sure it didn't hit the window.
No, the bird, I think the bird's gone. I'm going to take the plastic off the way. You can see it's fallen off. No, Stacy on IoT.com, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Stacy on IoT.
Read my story about read it about privacy. I think you guys should be aware that this is happening.
Will smart medicine drive privacy legislation? It should. That's the name of that article.
I skimmed over it, Miss Stacy, just briefly, and the paragraph about HIPAA. Yeah, it's unfortunate that people do not quite understand that one of those P's stands for portability. So Yeah, not privacy.
None of them stand for privacy. There's only one P in HIPAA.
But does one of them stand for prevarication?
Good point.
After this episode, absolutely. Most certainly. Thank you, Stacey. Jeff, anything, any final word of wisdom?
Of course, you go to Gutenberg.com where you will find discount links. You can buy it cheap at both Bloomsbury as well as Blackwell's, which is a UK bookstore which ships in the US at great prices. I love them. You can buy the Gutenberg Parenthesis now out at the end of June. And then if you scroll a little bit, my friend, since we talked about magazines dying earlier, the other book I have coming in November is this brief book, much cheaper, by the way, about the magazine as object, an elegy to the magazine.
Oh, I love the cover. I
love that cover.
I was marveling at the cover as I was getting ready for the show. At first, I was like, "Is that a magazine?" No, that's a book about a magazine. That's brilliant. It looks great. Yeah, congrats. Done. Yeah, well done. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ant. Always love getting to do a show with you. What do you want to leave people with?
Hey, check out the show, twit.tv/HOP for hands-on photography. Go over there and watch it. Learn something about cameras and photography and just photography, conversations and news. Tell a friend and tell at least one enemy. Help grow this show. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you, Ant. Always a pleasure. Thanks to Benito. Thanks to John. Thanks to Burke. Everyone here in the studio making this show happen week in and week out. Couldn't do it without you all. If you want to find me, I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter, though not very active. Twit.social/@JasonHowell on Mastodon, though not very active. Really, if you want to find out what I'm doing, check out All About Android or this week, Tech News Weekly. Doing that show tomorrow with Micah Sargent, twit.tv/TNW. As for this show, twit.tv/TWIG will take you to the Twig This Week in Google show page where you can subscribe. We do this show every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 2100 UTC. So if you want to watch live, you certainly can. And you can participate in the chat room. You can participate in the Discord if you are a Club Twit member. That's twit.tv/clubtwit. If you want to check out all of our shows with no ads, get access to that Discord, and then a whole lot of extra bonus content that you don't get outside of the club. Really cool stuff.
Folks, go ahead and vote for the book for Miss Stacey's book club too. All you Club Twit members, go in there and hit up the book club channel and scroll up to the pinned messages, and you'll see our 3 books that we need to vote on because the meeting is June 29th. So go ahead and get your vote in. Votes will be closing on the 22nd, I think. So appreciate you.
Who's winning?
It's a tie last time I looked with Mickey 7 and was it the Terraformers? I vote Terraformers.
Terraformers.
Well, that may do it in right there.
That may not. People may be like, no, we're done.
Stacey, I think you should declare it's not a democracy.
Oh, it is a democracy. Well, I can't. No one talks.
Currently,
if Ant and I aren't talking.
They don't like the book.
Currently, Mickey 7 is ahead by 1, 9-8.
Wow.
How many times can I vote? Do you check that?
I do not check that, but I'm going to hold you to some standards.
It's not that.
I wouldn't do that, Ant.
Get your votes in if you are a Club Twit member. Make your voice heard and influence the direction of Stacey's book club. That's right. You've got the power. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Always a lot of fun. And Leo and the gang will see you next time on This Week in Google. Bye, everybody.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, Editor-in-Chief of Ad Astra Magazine, and each week I join with my co-host to bring you This Week in Space, the latest and greatest news from the final frontier. We talk to NASA chiefs, space scientists, engineers, educators, and artists, and sometimes we just shoot the breeze over what's hot and what's not in space, books, and TV. And we do it all for you, our fellow true believers. So whether you're an armchair adventurer or waiting for your turn to grab a slot in Elon's Mars rocket, join us on This Week in Space and be part of the greatest adventure of all time.